You gonna do that with Black? It's coming out of one.
I was only born with it. I just was born with it, man. You got to be on it, though. You got to be on it. You got to be on it. Come on. So bullshit. You got to be on it. Hey, you got to be on it. So just chill. Hey, give him some He gonna see for you what you need. Drink. What you need? In the kitchen right here. Give me a joint. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ball and they say we hate the East Coast, but that's funny. Got a lot of love for any niggas getting money. I made a song.
Somebody say fuck it up, digital underground. Oh shit, what do you think? When you got 3 dope MCs that can spit stupid lyrics, we're gonna get it real up. Just to pump up the party like helium. Just throw your hands up and let your head clap. Go from side to side, we'll ride these bikes like Johnny on horseback. Yo, and if you're smoking that crack, you're in the zone when you need another upper. Your triple slipping going out like a sucker. Matter of fact, you're more than just slipping. You're way beyond control. You're on a mission. You walk right through a wall to get a 20, a 40, or an 8 ball. And once you enter this area, there ain't nothing scary. And all I wanna say to ya is just back the hell up. You need to go where they let you do your thing in a cup, and you can take a diagnosis. You see your boy Shot G wrote this to open up your mind. Do you know who I am? I'm deliverer of the rhyme. My job is to verbally slay suckers like a Uzi spraying motherfuckers. The underground is gonna get you. Now pay attention, we're about to enter into a new dimension. Can't you feel the tension? I'm sure you heard the word prevention. So like I said, pay attention. You only need a little bit, but you want another hit? Call emergency on the telephone, cause yo, you're in the danger zone. Drop it. You're in the danger zone. You're in the danger zone. You're in the danger zone.
Controversial rapper and actor Tupac Shakur has died in a Las Vegas hospital.
Rap star Biggie Smalls, the notorious B.I.G., was shot dead by a drive-by gunman.
Someone had had enough of seeing this, and there was an anonymous letter sent to law enforcement saying, these guys are living like drug dealers.
Yo can't wait till he's just gone for good, so they can fully breathe a sigh of relief.
He's dead. That person's dead. And everybody feels comfortable with the fact of that. When I say everybody, I mean whoever set it up.
They're not gonna rest until Suge Knight is dead or in jail.
It was a setup.
Could you please state your full name for the record?
Yes, Tupac Amaru Shakur. I started off with poetry, writing poetry. But
Like junior high, high school?
yes,
Okay.
junior high school. And poets I saw were like looked on as like wimps. So I did that personally, but then I started turning the poetry into songs.
From the moment that I met Tupac, at the age of 17, he was one of the most startling individuals I've ever met. He was, and still is, just one of the most amazing voices. I love Pac instantly.
It's how you raised. We weren't raised barricaded, although the FBI was always lurking around and all of that, but you still went about your business. The kids still played outside. When they came upstairs and ate dinner. The only lock on the door was your police bar in New York and your little lock. But you weren't standing at the window with guns. That's not what his life was. It may have been others, but it wasn't his.
He became like my little brother, actually. I work with many different artists, but he's the guy who invites you to your home, you know, who you talk to, you know, late at night. He was just very easy to know for me. I kind of feel like he was that way with many more people, which is why he's so missed, because when people met him, they really got a chance to get a piece of him.
Months and months I kept talking about needing a young artist that had a voice that could translate and cross all boundaries.
Tupac was one of those guys who said what was on his mind.
Plenty of days a night, the brother, he kept a smile on us, we kept joking. He was one of them guys that had a personality that he wasn't always serious, you know what I mean? He could be going through the worst things in court and things like that, facing the worst things in his world, but he always kept a smile on his face. He always, you know, he always kept us laughing.
It is of my opinion that I was rapping while I was writing poetry.
Okay.
And so I was into rap, I guess you could say, from junior high when I wrote my first poem.
I fought a lot of people around me because Pac, when he was so young, he was already a contradiction in so many ways, externally and internally, and he lived out loud. So nothing surprised me. He was so in your face.
Pac really down to earth. He was a good dude. He had good intentions, you know what I mean? It's just that, unfortunately, sometimes in these streets, it can mislead us and have us doing and going the wrong way, you know?
A lot of people nowadays like to say Tupac was loyal, but Tupac was really only loyal to Tupac. He was loyal to what he wanted.
What my and Pac's friendship and love was about making shit happen.
If you could ride with that, he was fine with it. But if it was something that you couldn't ride with, he would move on. Or if you did something he didn't like, or if you didn't give him the attention that he thought he needed at that particular time, he was done with you. He might just be done with you for the night, but he was done with you at least for that night. And then he may reconsider the next morning, and you guys would be fine. But that's just how Tupac was.
Mm-hmm. And after I heard on the radio that there were other poets who made records and it was still selling and it was working, then I decided to change the method of my poetry.
Los Angeles police officers working within the organization, Compton police officers working within inside the organization. Them badges stopped us from getting to the truth.
No one is above the law. This is a fundamental principle in our society. And when it is violated, it's the job of the Department of Justice to step in and hold individuals accountable.
The 51-year-old deputy chief is now facing federal charges of selling drugs. 3 drugs in particular: oxycodone, heroin, and marijuana.
In a 3-year investigation, which San Francisco police officers have been indicted. All the officers were put on administrative assignment, taken off of any streets. Certain officers, because of the seriousness of the allegation, were disarmed.
And unfortunately, in this particular case, we had to take 3 police officers who were sworn to uphold public safety off the street. From my point of view, I'm battling the Mexican cartels in Chicago. Now I got to worry about this. Now I got to worry about this. Now I got to worry about this. Now I got to worry about this.
Turn it off. I just enjoyed the fringe benefits that came with a credential. Nightlife, the party life, the rubbing elbows with the powerful in Juarez and Chihuahua. When I was with the feds, there was this, one guy. This happened after the Pablo Acosta incident. We were doing a job. One of the other agents had a case and we were called in to help him. And we went into his house, real nice house. I turn around, there's a bag, a paper bag, grocery bag. And I look into it and there was piles of money in it. And inside that same bag, there was many bags of ounces of cocaine. If I would have been smart, I would have kept it. But that wasn't my, that wasn't my thing. It was share alike. So I gave that money to the person in charge of that job. And some other agents were racking out, they were taking everything. They were stealing everything. And the person I gave the money to stole the money. He never reported it. So I came back home that night. I get a knock. And I walk out and it was 2 of the commandant's right hands. The commander found out about the money and they turned around and blamed me for it. I was tortured. The same thing we did to the criminals was done to me. And the one pointing the finger, blaming me, was that same guy that was taking everything from the house.
As I was, the first time they tied my hands, my face, giving me water, shocks. When they started beating me up, the commander was accusing me of being a DEA agent working in Mexico. That was the only time I had that problem. This was the commander talking. The first night I went in there, they asked me, "Where's the money?" I gave the money to him. The guy gave the money and said, No, you didn't. And since he was the commander's right hand, he believed him more than me. So they took me into his office. They handcuffed my hands. They tied my legs. They put me on the ground. They shoved the rag up my mouth. They put a handkerchief on my face and gave me the water treatment, mineral water with pepper powder. My father gave $20,000 to him. They called me, they pulled me out of the cell. And they took me into an office, and the commander turned around and he cursed at me for a while. And he turned around and told my father, I tortured him. Ain't shit he can do about it. I was pretty messed up. It was after 30 days, my face was swollen, my body was hurting. I had beard, my hair was all messed up. I remember crossing the bridge and the guy at the port of entry just looked at me and said, "You okay?" "What's wrong with you?" Nothing, kept walking.
In the mid-1980s, the cocaine trade had sort of shifted from Miami, because a lot of the law enforcement there, to Los Angeles. As the volume of cocaine cases and frankly the volume of cocaine per case started to grow and grow, the sheriff's departments selected some of their best narcotics officers to be what they called their majors crews to go after the big, significant, large-scale narcotics distributors.
The majors units at the LA Sheriff's Department were Majors 1, Majors 2, Majors 3, and Majors 4. Operation Big Spender was an epic announcement to discover and ferret out and punish corruption by elite law enforcement officers.
It started because some of these sheriff's deputies who were putting their lives on the line every day, as they would seize money, they at some point came up with the idea of taking a little bit of the money to try to get better equipment to help them do their jobs. Over time, it morphed into maybe people were going to lunch that day from the unit, so they would take some of the money from the kitty, as they called it, and they'd use it for lunch. And then a little later on, it might be the weekend, and they were all going out, and it's like, hey, let's take a little money from the kitty for when we go out.
Here's a good example. The time we took the Iranians down, and we have $1 million in cash in 5s, 10s, and 20s spread through all of our desks. They wouldn't let us use the money counter, so we had to do it by hand. We ordered pizza, and so we're all digging in our pockets, trying to come up with enough to pay the pizza guy, and he's looking at us like we're crazy because here's $1 million spread out all over these tables.
And then before you know it, as time progresses on, and certainly by the time of the majors teams, forget the kitty. When we seize money, let's just take some.
The predication came from drug dealers.
Later on we find out that not only had they been planting drugs on my guys, but they had been planting drugs and lying on the witness stand and fabricating search warrants for a lot of other people.
Too many drug dealers came forward and spoke to officials and created a buzz where similar, if not identical, scenarios of, hey, it's all the same to me, but just so you know, they reported $50,000 seized from me. I had $100,000 in cash.
They basically put away the gang thing and became people that had organizations, and like Whitey's World, Way Out World, World on Wheels, Cobra Enterprises. These were all African-American gang members that had narcotic organizations that made millions of dollars.
A bunch of my guys have been getting drugs planted on them when they didn't have no drugs, when they wasn't selling drugs, and I wanted to find out who these cops were that was doing this.
Ricky Ross was a legendary drug dealer, but so were a lot of people in LA.
They was taking the drugs from one person, planting them on another person and selling them to this person, and just, you know, just a criminal enterprise.
Sometimes it happened invisibly to the drug dealer, but sometimes it happened right out in the open, where a seeming confidence had developed among the detectives. Nobody's going to believe this person. At some point in, I think, 1988, someone had had enough of seeing this, and there was an anonymous letter sent to law enforcement saying, these guys are living like drug dealers. You need to check them out. They're spending money like drug dealers, they have money like drug dealers, and they're living the life of drug dealers. That led to a lengthy and exhaustive investigation culminating in a sting where they actually had a wired up, videoed up hotel room with plant alleged drug money in, I think, 1989, and they actually caught members of the Majors 2 sheriff's unit stealing money. Thieves doing the thieving live before your eyes.
Yeah, taking a 20, nobody had ever known, but it was something that, you know, in me, that I would have never been able to sleep. I would have been waiting for them to come and knock on my door and take me away for taking $20 from a dirtbag dope dealer with $1 million.
The sergeant on that crew, a guy named Robert or Bob Sobel, wound up flipping or cooperating, and then he testified in the first trial. And because of the information he gave and later others, the investigation spread to the other major narcotics crews. You didn't have to do very much persuasion that there was something rotten here, because you can see it, as well as study financial records. You could see thievery occur.
On the one hand, you have Operation Big Spender and the Los Angeles County Sheriffs being prosecuted. And on the other side of the fence, you have the city of Compton.
Of course, it's not uncommon. You can take any large city or medium city or a relatively small city like Compton with a population of approximately 100,000, and you're going to be able to identify in its historical record there was corruption.
There were no lines that people of power in Compton were unwilling to cross to defend their power. No legal lines, no moral lines, no ethical lines. I just found that it was the Wild West.
Virtually every town that has a 19th century origins in Southern California started out as small agricultural colonies. But Compton was unique in that it was early on the settlers decided to incorporate. Los Angeles at the turn of the century is an emerging city. It's still not even in the top 100 cities of the United States in terms of population, but it's on the make. And just south of Compton is Long Beach.
These families have been here 40, 50, 60 years. And so everyone knows everyone. You know, if you got caught breaking into somebody's house in the neighborhood, you got a problem. If you stole from somebody in the neighborhood, you got a problem. And if you were from outside of the neighborhood, they're gonna check you out until you leave here.
So for African Americans coming from South Central Los Angeles, which was increasingly congested and deteriorated housing, for those middle class African Americans, they viewed Compton as nirvana. And whites are moving en masse so quickly, I refer to it rather than white flight as white exodus. By 1970, Compton is an African American majority community, and by the early 70s, the first community this side of the Mississippi River entirely run politically and administratively by African Americans.
So there's not a neighborhood that we're going to go into, be it Crip or Paru, that if they see my face, they're not going to stop and say, Omar, Omar.
Compton, through the 70s and 80s and 90s, enters a really trying, challenging, difficult era. You had whites move out, and they took their businesses with them. So the tax base, with all of the banks gone, in fact, downtown Compton is bulldozed. As that happens, the infrastructure of the city begins to decline.
Now these rough streets are because I'm no longer mayor.
Now, you introduce a cheap drug, crack cocaine, that with a rudimentary gang structure, that if it expands and becomes business oriented in the underground economy, can make a hell of a lot of money.
I was captain fucking football team, AB student, magnet. We out there getting it. Fucking with this nigga and my brother, so we have a super long ring, it's ridiculous. I ain't have no problem. 450 SL, niggas in the 10th grade.
And for kids that can't find jobs otherwise, and schools that are deteriorating, they're having trouble staying in schools, you can make quick money, a lot of money, if you do the selling of drugs connected to gangs.
I sold drugs because I was running from poverty. I didn't like being poor and broke. You know, I didn't like not having food in the refrigerator. And I didn't like for the light man to be talking about cutting my mom's lights off.
Suge Knight was a very powerful individual. He had connections with the Compton mayor, and he had access to just about the entire Blood gang.
Death Row Records.
Death Row Records.
Death Row.
Death Row.
Death Row Records.
Death Row. Death Row.
Death Row Records.
This is Michael Harris, a man drug agents describe as a major cocaine trafficker.
Yeah, I knew Michael Harris. Yeah, he was trying to put together his wife's album, and matter of fact, we were cellies at the time.
Harris, identifying himself as original organizer and owner, names him as an equal partner in Death Row.
I told him that he should have Dr. Dre produce a song for him. And that's how his thing with the Suge and the Dre and all started transpiring. I met Suge in MDC.
Harris's complaint also names criminal defense attorney David Kenner as the company general counsel and organizer.
Harry O and a couple other guys in there that was running for David Kenner. You know, that was their game. You hire David Kenner and then they get a kickback. I was there when he first told Kenner about the music business as well. Harry O told David Kenner that he would make him more money in the music business than he ever made doing law.
What's up, boy? What's going on, homie? Doing a documentary.
Corruption exacerbated things as prominent political figures were identified, often with a federal investigation of corruption on a variety of charges. You had some high-ranking people like U.S. Representative Tucker taking some bribes from a company, I think it was a rubbish company or a reclamation company that was come into Compton and given favored status, and the FBI investigated, and then over a course of time found guilty.
Did the city council meet in August?
No.
And yet our producer found that you were being paid in August.
Probably so.
Why so?
Tradition.
I mean, just to be honest, I was really naive. I have worked in politics at a lot of different levels. I have worked in the White House. I've worked on 5 presidential campaigns. I'd been a deputy mayor. I'd been on the State Board of Education. Worked on a number of mayoral campaigns and gubernatorial campaigns. I had never encountered politics like I encountered in Compton.
Ben Austin worked in the White House, so he's seen politics of all kinds. They've got to be pretty bad.
Our research shows in 2012, the city council members earned $39,000 each for serving on 4 commissions, which met for a total of 26 hours. That shakes out to $1,500 per hour.
Compton was just the Wild West, and there were simply no rules. There were no lines that people of power in Compton were unwilling to cross to defend their power. No legal lines, no moral lines, no ethical lines. I just found that it was the Wild West.
What commissions are you on?
All of them.
Do you have a favorite?
A favorite? No.
Well, what's one of them?
I'm just serving on the ones that's on the books. So that's it was CRA, it was public finance. You caught me by.
In nearby Huntington Park, council members make less than $15,000 a year. Ditto over in Maywood, the politicians there make about $6,700 a year. And in affluent Huntington Beach, council members earn about $16,000.
And the rules of engagement, the normal rules of engagement, do not apply.
Do they do anything?
Well, they listen to the audience comments, and then they may comment on that.
And then they decide something? It's just,
there's nothing to decide.
So the people that came into power hired their cousins and their uncles and others into the jobs, especially in the school district, right, which was the largest employer for city residents. But in 1993, the state does something unprecedented. It takes over the Compton School District. State had never done that before.
School board president announced during a debate about this that we just need to accept that all children are not going to succeed.
All kids are not going to make it.
That's just the opening salvo. That was their basic premise from which they were operating. And everything else flows from there.
And the board, sometimes we don't even know what's going on.
I mean, the words that were spoken in Compton.
I gave you your 5 minutes. There would be no more speaking.
And the actions that were taken were, in my mind, in an alternate universe. And like I said, I had come there having worked in the White House and on 5 presidential campaigns.
All kids are not going to make it.
And I had never seen anything like this.
Adult issues are important.
So you have, in that period of the late 80s through the late 90s, this mountain of scandals in the school district, in City Hall, in the representatives to Congress from the city.
I was at an education conference in San Diego, and I saw across the hall the former superintendent of Compton. He just happened to be there. I remember it was yesterday. He turns to me and he says, "You're a crazy motherfucker." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, when I was superintendent of Compton, the mayor called me one day and said that I needed to sell a parcel of land to a developer friend of his. And he said, you know, that he refused, that he wasn't going to do it." So soon after that, a school caught on fire. And a couple of days, a week later, another school catches on fire. And then it happens again. And so he called the fire chief, or the police chief, I don't remember which, and he said, "When is this going to stop? What's going on here? We got a huge problem." And he said, "The fires will stop when the mayor says the fires will stop." They were essentially doing this eyes wide open. They'd done a report on themselves. They learned that the schools were not performing well because of affirmative decisions they were making, and didn't make any changes. And that was, for me, a real poster child for an educational system that is fundamentally designed to serve the needs of adults, not the needs of children.
Adult issues are important.
Kids in McKinley are 50 times more likely to drop out of school than to go to college.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge concern, and especially for these parents that want their kids to succeed like any parent does. And so first thing, they wanted to get their kids out of this school district.
I founded an organization called Parent Revolution, and we invented a new law called the Parent Trigger Law. The law says that if half the parents at a failing school sign a petition, they can bring in new staff, they can bring in new leadership, they can convert their school to a charter school, or they can use the law as leverage to bargain. But it wasn't until we turned the petitions in on December 7th that the blowback really began. They mapped the networks of the school and figured out the children of the parents who signed the petition. And for the children of the parents who signed the petition, and these are elementary school kids, they wouldn't let the children, when they were at school, they wouldn't let them go to the bathroom. They forced the children to pee in their pants, and when they did, they were sent to the nurse's office, and the nurse was in charge of the rescissions. And so the nurse would call in the mom to bring clean underwear in, and as the mom was changing their child's underwear, the nurse would ask her to sign a rescission petition.
And I just want to make this statement. When Omar had the city with a surplus, had the murder rate drop from 100 a year down to 20 by bringing in the sheriff and getting rid of the corrupt Compton PD.
And now we see that the corruption that's passed from the city government and the corruption that's infected the schools is now passing its way down to the Compton Police Department. But you have to ask yourself this question. The entire Compton Police Department was disbanded. What does it take to disband an entire police department?
In order to disband an entire police department, things have to be so bad and so corrupt that there's no other alternative, you know, such as maybe bringing in a new police chief, new police administration, or something of that nature.
Play envy Compton streets when I was mayor. I used to get on the radio and laugh at them because they couldn't figure out my formula.
It has happened on occasion where the entire municipality has been dissolved. The bottom line is things have to be pretty bad before that happens.
I had personal interaction with them working the gang detail from 84 to 90. We didn't share a lot of information with them because of the city government was known to be corrupt, and the police department had a stigma of not being on the up and up. It was like shoveling sand against the tide.
You'd hear over and over again that the Compton cops were on the payrolls of the gangs. Initially, when the word that cops were working for Suge was out, was that basically they were providing with intelligence. But also when cops, when there'd be a clear street and there wouldn't be any cops around.
And one of the things that the former mayor of Compton, Omar Bradley, told us was that there actually wasn't a difference between Death Row Records and the city of Compton.
They've always been the same entity. That's what you don't get. The city attorney's nephew or cousin is Snoop Dogg. The city manager's son is A&R. The head of homicide son is vice president head of security. The other chief of police that I bring in and replace Yuri, his daughter got $1 million contract with Death Row.
They reached out to the Los Angeles County Sheriffs to see if the sheriffs would be interested in policing Compton.
In police work, in law enforcement, there is so much duplication of services. They overlap, and a lot of times eliminating a police department really doesn't harm the public because another department can come in and take care of it.
The way this actually worked was the FBI walked into Omar Bradley's office one day because a Long Beach police officer had been shot with a gun that had flowed through the Compton police evidence locker. And so the FBI wanted to know if Omar Bradley was in on it. And Omar Bradley said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And that led to an investigation into the Compton corruption that was happening. When they start this investigation, they come in and they find the evidence locker is just a mess. The inventory hasn't been done in years and years and years, and Chief Ori Taylor is suspended.
A group of those cops, sort of an elite group of those cops, were actually like a criminal gang.
And we're not talking about just casual trips down to the locker. We're talking about 172 unaccounted for visits.
And they ask Ori Taylor if they can start looking into the lockers, and Ori Taylor is pacing back and forth. "Oh, I don't think I have a key, and I don't think the key's around." And he seems like he's nervous and he's upset. And so the investigator pulls out bolt cutters and just cuts off the lock to Ori Taylor's locker. And inside they find 2 kilos of cocaine in the police chief's personal locker. And Ori Taylor all of a sudden decides he doesn't want to be there, and he leaves the police station.
And Ori Taylor gestures to his attorney as he's running up the back stairs to follow him up there, and that's the last they see of Ori Taylor.
Cases were being rejected by the DA's office, and the Compton police were actually keeping the evidence. And a lot of that evidence was being kept in the evidence locker, and then when they actually go to look for the evidence, it's missing. Compton was a very corrupt city, and the police were trafficking narcotics, using the evidence locker as their warehouse.
So that's how they pay them. But you gotta understand, we give you the dope, you give us a business deal. So our money looks good because our money's coming off this business deal. But where's their money coming from? Coming from the dope coming out the evidence locker. And the guns, 2,300 guns missing. 140 gallons of PCP.
I mean, money laundering is if you take drug money and you go buy a car, you just laundered that money. If you go buy clothes, you just laundered that money. That's a small scale.
They started calling people in one at a time. Nobody was taking the rap for what was happening and all the corruption, and they were blaming other people. There was an awful lot of finger pointing. They were also trafficking in stolen guns, and a lot of those guns were going into the evidence locker and then finding their way over to a gun shop in Compton.
City clerk, he owns part of the gun shop. ATF, FBI, Homeland Security,
and BACA.
All went, 400 people went in there to get all the guns out. They had to bring up a big rig to get all the shit together.
There's no coincidence that the Compton police corruption report happened at the exact same time that we had the Rampart scandal. And so you have this pattern that includes actually the DA's office in the missing cocaine, but nothing ever happens. And you have an assistant district attorney who refuses to prosecute Horry Taylor, but then turns around and is the one that was pursuing Omar Bradley the entire time Omar Bradley had his corruption trial, which was eventually overturned. But even after it was overturned, the assistant district attorney kept pursuing Omar Bradley.
Within 3 years after Omar Bradley is defeated as mayor and Eric Perrodin takes over, fellow prosecutor Terry Bork presses charges against Omar Bradley for corruption as it applies to credit card charges. Yet when those same credit card charges that are made by Eric Perrodin are presented to Terry Bork with the question as to whether or not that's actually corruption, Terry Bork says that even if he found that those credit card charges were corruption, he would not prosecute Eric Perrodin.
Reggie Wright Sr. is in charge of narcotics at the Compton Police Department. And so they bring him in for questioning. And Reggie Wright Sr. Immediately starts talking about how, you know, even though he's the man that's in charge and the responsibility really stops with him, that he doesn't ever make any decisions. And so they really shouldn't be looking at him. They should be looking at the guy under him and the guy over him. Everybody is pointing to other people to blame for the malfeasance that was going on in the department.
Now, it looks like the time in the Compton police report that Reggie Wright Sr. was actually in charge of both the narcotics and the gang units was about a year. But prior to that, he had been in charge of the gangs. And who deals the drugs? The gangs.
The Compton Police Corruption Report is a 95-page document. So when it was decided that they were going to shut down the Compton Police Department, a lawsuit was filed.
One of the things that struck us immediately was that there was a handful of people in the Compton Police Department that were just not satisfied with the Compton Police Department being closed.
It was heard before a judge. They tried to do everything they could to block this from being shut down. And the judge heard the case, they had their day in court, and the judge allowed them to shut down the Compton Police Department.
Even though Omar Bradley had been successful in shutting down the corrupt Compton Police Department, what do you think was the first priority on Eric Perrodin's agenda? Restarting the Compton PD.
The whole notion of I am my brother's keeper doesn't exist over here. This is dog eat dog.
So what you have here is a real dilemma for the Compton Police Department because it's sort of like a vice. On the one hand, you have the Operation Big Spender and the sheriffs and everybody that's surrounding the city of Compton being investigated for corruption as it relates to the drug trade. And on the other side of it, you have the Justice Department and the Drug Enforcement Agency coming down on death row records and looking at death row records for money laundering as it relates to drug sales. So where is in the middle? The Compton Police Department.
I was approached by the FBI and ATF about a year afterwards while I was working with death row records in regards to racketeering within death row records, and also at that time, the mayor of Compton, Omar Bradley, some other things that occurred within the city. I didn't know that the FBI at that time was following Reggie, Suge, the homeboys, and that's how things started out with the FBI.
He really was not that street person. He didn't understand the streets' value.
At 24, Tupac Shakur was a platinum-selling artist, the movie star, and an inmate at the Dannemora jail in upstate New York.
By the time that Tupac Shakur had gone to prison, he had already shot 2 cops in the city of Atlanta. The charges were dropped against him, but he'd still shot cops. So he was no favorite with law enforcement.
That's just plain out period. Don't come to jail. I'm telling you straight up. This ain't the spot. It's dirty, it's filthy, it's like you an animal. And it's just not the spot. No man don't want to be here. No man or woman wants to be here.
Pac is now in Dannemora. Everybody is visiting him back and forth.
Before the Rikers, after the Rikers, Dannemora, after Dannemora, I mean, I visited him. I took a trip. One day I was like, I gotta go to New York and see Pac.
And I think also that Tupac got it in his mind that he needed someone to protect him. Now, that again isn't true, that he needed someone to protect him, because Watani had a group of people, had always put a group of people around him to look out for him. The reason things happened to Tupac is Tupac would step outside of that group. If people put a group of people around you to look out for you, you need to stay inside that group. You don't need to step out and create new alliances with people that you don't know.
I got a phone call that Death Row had went to visit Tupac, and that I think he's siding with Suge.
The whole kind of Death Row thing is Tupac wanted to go to Death Row. What he told me face to face, as close as we were sitting, is I want to go to Death Row because I want to record with Dre and Snoop. He said to me, you can make the phone call or I'll have someone make the phone call. And I think Watani and I were both there at Dannemora talking to him at the time and told him, you don't need to do that. There's no reason to do that. You're #1 on the charts. Your record's outselling anybody at this particular time. All Death Row is Interscope. You don't need to go to Death Row.
Pac worked 24/7.
Because I knew he was gonna end it. This was just a means. He had to get out of jail, and he wanted his mom to have a house, and he would do those 3 albums. And after those 3 albums were done, the house is paid for. What is he gonna do? Because he had other ambitions.
At the time, Suge wasn't letting anyone work with Dre or Snoop unless they were part of Death Row.
In those months, in those last 9 months of his life, he had the kind of desperation that I talked about earlier. The only thing that mattered was to make a difference.
Thug life is like the 12th grade. Some people graduate from high school and don't seek to do anything else.
His lifestyle on video and on tape and even on song looked like a party. It wasn't a party, it wasn't a gangster party, it wasn't a party at all.
You have to remember, Tupac was out on bail. And the reason that he was rushing to get as many songs done as he could was because he wasn't sure that that bail wouldn't be revoked at some point and that he may actually go back to prison.
He was not a gangster. Not one day in his life, not even the day in the MGM when he stomped whoever the hell that was on the floor.
I was in a limo, me and Tupac, Outlaw Immortals. We were driving around in Harlem, and the radio came on with Snoop Dogg saying that he had no beef with New York, which sent Pac into a rage.
And at that time, the artist at the height of that whole forefront was Snoop. How the fuck did that feel?
Cause I am the LBC. I'm the king of Long Beach, nigga. I made it fashionable for niggas to bang the dub. I made it universal, motherfucker. I'm the nigga that took the set around the whole globe.
23-year-old Calvin Brodus, aka Snoop Doggy Dogg, the man who made gangster rap mainstream, stands accused of murder.
Los Angeles police announced that 21-year-old Calvin Brodus, better known as rap star Snoop Doggy Dogg, had turned himself into police on Friday along with 2 other young black men, all accompanied by an attorney, in connection with the murder on August 25th of a man named Philip Waldemariam and what police believe was a gang-related shooting.
We, the jury in above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Brodus, not guilty of the crime of murder in the 1st degree.
Only if David Kennedy just would have had love for me on that level and just did it for me, just not for the paper, but just doing it for the love, because I know that's how he is about me. He's not concerned with the money issue, and you know what I'm saying, and I knew that when he did his closing argument.
You know, we beat a murder trial for him, but then he was on probation. Then he got caught with 2 ounces of marijuana. Then he got caught with guns. And each time it's nothing. They're not gonna violate him. Because for the street guys know what I'm talking about. There's no puzzle. I mean, if you get a guy that constantly getting in trouble and never gonna come to prison, that's because he's an informant, he's a rat, a snitch.
You know, it was Suge and his guys and Tupac and myself, and it was Snoop Dogg and Dre and the Dog Pound. That's how it was on the personal side.
Right. You know, that was Pac, man. You cross him, there's no gray area. It's black and white. You cross him, you do something, you screw up, you are out.
Now, since he's not around, everybody claims that they was great friends. Everybody do a show. Some artists knew him, but like Pac and Snoop at the end hated each other. And you could tell that by the simple fact that when Snoop did Dogfather, Pac was not on that one song. And Pac didn't like Dre. That would change the Death Row camp because of the jealousy of Tupac. Because Tupac is all of a sudden now, he's this major star, he getting all the light, he getting all the attention.
I didn't feel nothing from nobody at first. I mean, especially Snoop and Pac came up together. You know, Thug Life and Dog Pound, we like came up together. You know, Thug Life, murder was the case, and I Get Around was the same time we would see each other and travel. Yeah, you know what I mean? Keep it moving. That might have changed over time because that group of people hadn't been around Pac like we had. So they didn't know how Pac is as a celebrity, as a star. To actually deal with him requires more attention, more time, because he's Pac.
And here's the irony. Tupac left to go to Death Row Records because he wanted to record with Snoop and with Dre. But when he got there, by the time he was done, he didn't like either of them.
Tupac looked at me and said, "Man, is that how my shit gonna sound?" And I'm like, "Nah, man." Because he's ready to kick a hole in the wall. Told the guy, "Nah, man, they kicked us out of Can-Am, 6 o'clock this morning. This is the best that Kevin Lewis could do for us." He picks up the phone, he calls the office. He says Snoop was corny, take all day doing one song. He says, "I'm paying Nate Dogg child support, Rage. Y'all kicked my engineers out the studio so that Rage can continue working on a record that she's been working on for 2 years. That's pretty fucked up. I am paying for this. Why are you guys kicking them out the studio when my record is the #1 record on Billboard?" Stuff like that, you know what I'm saying?
So, you know, that to me, you know, was childish on their part, but they can never feel the shoes that Pac feel. I walk into the light that he will.
But in the city of New York on September 4th of 1996, there was a big problem, and that had to do with a radio interview that Snoop Dogg did.
Because she asked me on the air, "How do you feel about Puffy and Biggie?" And I said what I felt. They're my homeboys, I love them.
Pac, of course, had big beef with New York.
Pac had a beef with New York because he got attacked in 1994 and there was a shot fired, and unfortunately it was self-inflicted.
Snoop was basically saying, "Hey, I don't have a beef with him." That set Tupac off, and we immediately spun the limo around and we went back to the hotel to confront Snoop. We couldn't find him, but we found Mr. Knight, and that's who Tupac confronted about what was going on the radio while we were in New York. I think Mr. Knight had me stay for the safety of Tupac, because I think Mr. Knight, with me not being there, he would have put his hands on him. He was that upset. And Pac's words were, I'm gonna cut out Machiavelli, and when I cut out Machiavelli, I'm the hell up out of here. You got your money, I don't want nothing else to do with Death Row, I'm out.
And after the major fallout between Suge and Tupac, suddenly Snoop walks back to the hotel.
When I got back to the hotel, it was a whole nother atmosphere, like
Perpetuating it so it could be drama, which I still love MTV, but when it all go down, don't look at me and Biggie and be like, why is there a big East Coast, West Coast war?
So when we got on the plane to go back to LA the next day, Suge didn't let none of my security ride with me. I had to ride on the plane with him, his homies, and Pac. And it was the most uncomfortable ride I ever had in my life. Back, put the blanket on my head, knife in my hand, fork in my hand, and just sleep the rest of the ride.
because I feel like they finna try to do something to me. So I walk down the steps. We meet right here. I'm like, cuz, you going to Vegas?
Why was somebody that wasn't going to Vegas anyway asking Tupac, are you going to Vegas?
He do me like this. Went his way and he went my way.
Apparently, the Long Beach Crips had put out a DVD with a bunch of diss songs and some music videos that dissed the Death Row organization and dissed Suge Knight.
DVD was all about killing death row people. You feel me? Now, the DVD was predominantly Long Beach people in it. You feel me? I'm from Long Beach. My whole time that I was on death row, I lived right here in Long Beach.
You always saw Pac and Suge hanging together. You always saw these niggas everywhere together. They was like big brother, little brother and shit. And the thing is, that relationship was dangerous for the powers that be.
I remember that. Not the West Coast. I got backlash from Suge Knight, Tupac, and Death Row. And then was our last days hanging out before he got killed. So we ended on a kind of foul note.
The tension between Death Row Records and the Long Beach Crips and the Snoop Dogg Dogg Pound camps was palpable, to the point where Snoop Dogg went to the point of making an entire music video that showed total disrespect for Suge Knight.
Bully got checked, you know what I'm saying? You know how when you in school and you got a bully, and he's scaring everybody and everybody going the other way. Scared putting their lunch money up, hiding their gold chains. Well, this day at school, the bully got checked. He had to put his gold chain in and try to light a cigar. You know, but the media didn't want to bring it off like that because they were scared that Suge was going to do something to him for telling the truth.
Shit go haywire.
Were you in Vegas?
No, we heard about it because they was trying to get us to go to Vegas. And we was like, Dogg Pound, we was really on our fuck Death Row shit, really. You know what I'm saying? We was already saying fuck Death Row.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because we know everybody.
And now we have opportunity. The people that need to be in Las Vegas are in Las Vegas, and the people who don't want to be seen in Las Vegas have cleared out.
Cause I am the LBC. I'm the king of Long Beach, nigga. I made it fashionable for niggas to bang the dub. I made it universal, motherfucker. I'm the nigga that took the set around the whole globe. Yeah, that's me.
Tupac hated people, and we were supposed to hate people because Tupac hated them.
In most law enforcement investigations, you find that the first suspects that are looked at are generally wives, girlfriends, significant others, people that would normally have a natural relationship, and you'd actually try to figure out if they were the most logical suspect. And in this case, it doesn't seem to happen, yet you're looking at she had plenty of motive.
She was managing Snoop in the very beginning, but Snoop wasn't happy with that.
Nightlife Management, which Sharitha Knight owned, which was Suge Knight's wife. By Suge owning Death Row Records, it would be a conflict of interest of him managing his artists too. So he had that in his wife's name. And not only did she manage every artist that was on Death Row, she also managed Caution. She managed us.
I think that he gave her the nightlife entertainment to give her some experience, get her experience, because she was young.
Anything goes down with Suge, you know who's going to run this company? Reggie. Nope, wrong. That's pressure Reggie can't handle. Let me tell you, if something goes wrong with Suge, who's going to run the company? Common sense, right? Sharitha is on the thing. Sharitha's on the paper. Yeah, Reggie would carry most of the burden. Man, they're tighter than you think. They're tighter than you think.
Even though she was young, you know, she had a baby, and so that kind of gave her the edge over a few people. I knew what he did when we were outside Death Row Records, but as soon as Sharitha found out about it, something that had happened, he sent you home. You were done. He didn't play that one. It was like, I guess it was like, okay, either me or them, and I'm not giving up the child check.
She had a cheating husband. She had financial ties to him. She could definitely gain from him being dead. So in all of those circumstances, there might be good motive.
I mean, murder is pretty simple. The first person you go after is the spouse or the person closest to the victim.
He just changed his ego, his temper. The women started flocking the money, and that was basically the demise of our marriage. Suge got out of control.
She went with the flow. It didn't bother her. A lot of times she got herself into situations too.
Actually, by the time she said that, she was suing Snoop and trying to get money because she said her husband was going to kill him at any moment. She wanted to get her money while Snoop was still alive.
But more than just Suge, we wondered if maybe Tupac was a threat to Sharitha.
When Tupac came in, the picture of Death Row, it all just crumbled.
It would have been easy for her to take over, but I don't think that she had the experience that was necessary to keep a multi-million-dollar record company running like that.
You couldn't reach Sharitha except through intermediaries who were lawyers, but I had documents, and she knew I had those. I basically knew about her relationship with Kevin Gaines, so it was how far in Kevin Gaines was. Was it, was he just involved with you, or was he really was he working for Suge too? And she basically claimed that he did work for Death Row Records, but it was at her behest and through her, and that the only time he was ever around Suge was the time she thought Suge was going to kill him.
He worked briefly for Suge Knight, just as approximately 100 other officers. Officers were paid $75 an hour to work for Suge Knight. I was asked to work for Suge Knight, which I declined. But a lot of officers did, and they weren't all black officers, and they weren't all from LAPD.
They took a drive, and Gaines and she both got scared.
But according to the stories that roamed the halls of Death Row Records, Kevin Gaines was taken out to the middle of the desert as a warning. He was stripped naked and left to walk back to the city.
Because Suge was being very menacing, and she basically backed him off by saying, this man's a police officer, he's got a gun, you wouldn't dare kill a police officer.
According to FBI documents, Kevin Gaines was in Las Vegas from 2 days prior to the shooting of Shakur until 2 days after the death of Shakur. So we know that Kevin Gaines was already Snoop Dogg's bodyguard and apparently his muscle, and that Kevin Gaines had a relationship with Sharitha Knight. So what exactly was Kevin Gaines doing out on that special assignment in Las Vegas? We came across a letter that was called, we call it the confession letter, that was given to us by Chris Blatchford at Fox News. And this letter was given to him in 1998. By a gentleman who is now in prison. But at the time, he was a confidential informant for Fox News for Chris Blatchford. And it was reliable. It helped him, actually tipped him off to a couple of really big burglaries that had happened. CHP's offices got burglarized, and he helped Fox catch the people that did it. And this letter was alleged to have been written by Danny and Malcolm Patton. And the Patton brothers were Pyru.
Yes.
And
it's a gang in Los Angeles.
Yes, it was a gang in Los Angeles, I should say that. That the Blood Gang. And that they had mapped out this entire, not only confession that they were involved with the shootings, but why the shootings happened, what was all involved with it to begin with. And in that letter, not only were the Pattons the ones who were alleged to have written the letter, but they named a rapper by the name of Little Half Dead. You have to be pretty hardcore, know the Dog Pound, and know who the players are, to know who he is. So his name came up, but it was immediately kind of the scoff because nobody ever heard this before. You don't need to look any further than the album cover that Little Half Dead did. In this album cover, he features a picture of a dead Tupac Shakur slumped over a console at Can-Am Studios, along with a picture of what arguably looks like Yafu Fula, the second victim right after the shooting, as a victim as well, being shot in the head. Little Half Dead himself is dressed up as no one other than the Terminator.
Dog Pound, we was really on our fuck Death Row shit, really. You know what I'm saying? We was already saying fuck Death Row.
And the story goes that they owed Freeway Rick Ross some money. At that time, Fox News was paying a lot of money, and if they thought you could break a story that would get the kind of OJ ratings that you solved Tupac and Biggie, that kind of ratings back in 97, 98, well, maybe it was worth giving this to. We've also heard that it was an insurance policy because people were dropping like flies during those days. Sometimes you can give the press a letter and you say, if anything happens to me, you're free to put this out. There are several different points that the letter brings out, and we narrowed it down to 4 basic benchmarks that we could look at to see if there was any legitimacy. The first one was demo stealing. The letter mentions the fact that there was a problem with demo stealing. At the time, there was a problem with demo stealing. There were a lot of people ripping off albums.
Yeah, I saw that all the time in the studio. I still see it to this day. When people would come to Death Row to play their tracks for us, if it was a good track after they left, we might just make something that sounded like what we just heard. Now, there's a song by Tupac called Toss It Up, which is really started out from No Diggity. One day, all of a sudden, Death Row Security comes through the door and they've got the master tape of No Diggity. As it got handed down the line to different producers, more and more stuff got erased of No Diggity, and then it's just kind of hard to hear that that's in there.
The second thing that we looked at in the letter was actually the reference to the fact that there was an altercation between Little Half Dead and Tupac's soldiers.
I think Pac was a great man, but his governor was broke. You know, in the car, when you got your governor where you could only go a certain, Pac had to go all the way, every time, all out or nothing.
It got to the point where I had a bail bondsman on speed dial, and he knew me, and he knew our money was good. So anytime Tupac or any of the guys got in trouble, and usually it was Tupac, and then Man would have to get bailed out also, that I'd call and get them bailed out right away.
This is back in the days where we were using DATs, and I queued up the DAT to the wrong spot, and Pac, he just blasted me in front of the whole crowd. I'm sorry, y'all. That's my stupid brother. That's my stupid brother on the mix. You know, I'm like,
whoa, they better come now. Check this out. They fired me, but did it in a roundabout punk snitch way. So I caught them on the streets and beat they behinds. You know what I'm saying? Okay, like, I was a menace to the youth, brothers. And it ain't over. I still got more than
and I'm going like it's the movie. My fist is coming back like this. I got him by the neck, and I'm getting ready to punch him, and just like a movie, I get snatched off him. And then it's the bum rush, and everybody just start rat packing me. And it was like raging bull, blood spurting everywhere, and I just felt my body just contort. I'd never been, you know, rat packed before. I was just shocked I didn't feel anything.
The third thing that the confession letter brings up is actually the fact that there was a bounty placed out on Tupac and Suge Knight. That's not news. There were bounties that were put out on, allegedly on Death Row Chains.
Right.
There was allegedly bounties put out on that. Crooked Eye talks about the fact that there was actually a bounty that was put out. If you were a Death Row artist, you were marked for death.
Okay.
The fourth thing that we looked at, and this was the real jaw dropper, and that was that they mentioned Reggie Wright Jr. and his involvement in the fact that he was going to provide information as to where they were going to be and to provide barricades so that there was actually no way out.
Tupac thought he was going to a place where he could have protection, but both Tupac and Suge were in over their heads, and they were both targeted for execution that night.
Why don't you just have people mad at you or what's that? That's holding your freedom in your hand.
Hey dude, can you hear me all right?
I can. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you great, actually, really well.
This is awesome.
Nice and clear.
So we're getting a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people.
How are we only seeing, like, I know it says 460 watching now, but like you're telling me that like that's like triple that number, or I mean, I was surprised because we had like 14,000 people watch the first one.
The numbers right now are it's close. They verify them. Real time shows them. If I go into my real time, it shows them. But they verify them in case they're botted because I'm getting paid. But we're live.
We're live now.
Yeah. So I wanted to make an announcement to everybody that I heard through a friend. Well, actually from Toyland Kelly, who is Suge Knight's fiance. She said that Suge Knight's cousin was arrested in this raid. He is one of those individuals, and he.
What
was
up, Jay Black?
What's
Just
that?
talking. Go ahead. No, I'm just talking. What up, Jay Black? Go ahead.
And Suge's cousin is involved in this. He was arrested with him. I'm waiting on the name. This is kind of breaking. But apparently it was a couple days before Reggie Jr. and Sr. And also Reggie is out on bail right now.
Do you know what his bail was?
I do not. But I don't know what he could put up for collateral with the house and the seizure. Maybe you can explain how that works.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. It's RJ here with Jesse doing the post-game wrap-up show. Did we get all the way through the movie like we thought we were going to, or did we just kind of like cut it off?
I ran it to 114.
Okay, good deal. All right. So we got the LBC. I am the LBC, and we're rolling through this now. Is everybody? Tell me, everybody's listening. Is the sound better than it was last week? I'm waiting to get response. Hang on. I think what I'm gonna do is
there is one hell of a delay, so you got to keep that in mind.
Oh, that's okay. I'm good. They're asking, can you raise your volume?
Yeah,
Okay.
It seems to be good. I mean, this is as loud as my end's going to get, so I'll just have to talk louder.
Well, pull your microphone closer to your mouth. That'll help.
It's a short microphone.
Tip it down a little bit. There you go. Tip it down.
All right.
Okay. Cool. So, yes, we went to the microphones because we heard that the sound sucked last week. And we always wanted to do a quality show for you all, as opposed to other people that just kind of throw content out there and don't give a shit about what it looks like. We tend to want to do something quality for our fans. So we're going to obviously talk about a lot. The show's going to be a little bananas today because we got information rolling in like crazy right now. Let me just check that. So it's a little bit. There you go. So put it up there a little bit. So let's get to it. A couple things you wanted to talk about here, Jesse. What's on your mind today, brother? Tell me about your take on the events.
Of what's going on with Reggie?
Yeah.
You know what? I was surprised when I heard. I missed the original call, and I was very surprised to hear it. Although there was a deep part of me that really wasn't surprised to hear it. It's one thing you become detached from it when you're looking at investigative files and me and you were talking and you're making a movie and we're sourcing material, but it's a whole nother thing to see this play out in real life. I never thought I'd see this day. I am seeing a lot of criticism that we're celebrating early, and that this doesn't tie into the murder, but I think the showing that we just saw should pretty much solidify with the viewers that we have the connection that and what this means for the case.
Well, I would agree. I'm watching comments as you're talking. First off, let's get it out there that nobody is celebrating anything. Okay, this is a tragedy. The murders of Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls are a fucking tragedy. Okay, they should have never have happened. And we've spent the last 10 years investigating it, and it's been 20 years since that case has happened, and there's been a lot of deaths involved with it, and there's nothing to celebrate or rejoice in this whole thing. And I'm kind of sad that short-sighted people would think that we would run around doing a victory lap, because we were proven right. There are certain things that I don't like to be right about. There's a satisfaction in knowing you're right, but there's certain things that, when you get proven correct, it doesn't mean it's a good thing that you're proven correct. We knew that there was a problem dealing Compton drugs the last 20 years. Compton Police Department got shut down. The Compton Police Report talks about drugs being shipped. So, this was only...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but for those that don't know, the Compton police report was basically missing cocaine, and the Compton police was headed up by
Oh, it was
Reggie
missing more
Wright
than that.
Sr.
It was missing more than that. The Compton police report was an internal affairs investigation that was actually 99 pages, and it was an accumulation of, God, I want to say 15 or 16 other reports that had already been done previous to it. I don't have that list in front of us. Maybe we'll pull that page and post it up there where it actually shows kind of the bibliography of the report itself. The Compton corruption report was actually kind of a big summary of all of these other reports put together and gave kind of a big narrative as to what was going on at the time.
And this was years ago. The Compton
this was,
PD was disbanded due to this corruption report years ago.
Yeah, this was 1999 when this corruption report came out, and it talked about drugs and guns walking out of the Compton PD evidence locker. That they were missing 100 gallons of PCP. You saw that in the movie. $175 million worth of PCP disappears out of a police evidence locker, and no one thinks that's unusual. So we have to take a look at that. We put it in perspective. We understand the reasons that it all happened, and it is not good. And we're not celebrating early because, again, does this prove that they had anything to do with the killings of Tupac Shakur? Well, time will tell. We have our beliefs. Our belief hasn't changed. I do believe that there's going to be a series of follow-up investigations done. I think that there's going to be a lot of people. I mean, I'm seeing stuff already on the internet where people are talking about like Greg Kading's going into hiding and stuff like that. I mean, I'm seeing this kind of nonsense stuff, but whatever people are being told, I think that as people that have leverage over other people that will hold things over people's heads and have that leverage, I think that once those people are away, I mean, let's look at what happened with Suge Knight and Death Row. I mean, for heaven's sakes, once Suge Knight went to prison, Death Row became a free-for-all. There was no law at all. Everybody was taking everything that wasn't nailed down. Norris tried to run it for a little while. He couldn't run it. And it wasn't until Reggie Wright got kind of back in the saddle again and he got put in charge that there seemed to be some semblance returned back to Death Row Records. But by that time, pretty much everything was, anything that wasn't nailed down, to the floor was gone. And Reggie tried to maintain some control, but
I think that's what's going on here is you're being very diplomatic about it. With Reggie Wright being locked up, he's not there to threaten anybody anymore. So
he's not locked up right now. Now he's out on bail. He's not. So circling your wagons and going back and putting the hammer down on some people. I think that there's a possibility that. That some people may stay quiet, but let's just be honest. I mean, if these guys go away for any period of time, or they're gone, or they go to another state because they've been extradited, or whatever, however this is going to play out, I think there's going to be some people that aren't afraid to come forward anymore. Some people that aren't afraid of the leverage that's being held over their head. And I believe that those people's information will lead us eventually to a better understanding of the Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls killings.
And I want to give a special shout out to the real one at 313 T-Rail. I want to give a shout out to him, and I want everybody to go check out his YouTube channel. It's the 313 Live Show. He's been a pretty good supporter of ours, and he's been out there trying to tell some truth to people.
Let me just get a quick shout out there as well to Rel, Team RJ Bond. We're all here. The thing about 313, there's been a little bit of controversy back and forth as to whether or not I've said certain things, I haven't said certain things. Let me put the record straight that I did an interview with 313 show months ago, and as a result of that show, I struck up a friendship and a working relationship with Rel at the 313 Music Show. I have never seen him waver if he has said something contrary to what I know from him. I would be very surprised by that. I mean, any guy that can get on the air and say F this person and F this person, and is pulling sides. I mean, that's the kind of person I want on my team. The person I don't want on my team is a person that takes information that's given to them and can't get the information right, that they can't get the information straight. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I don't want to go too far off of the topic here, but you know, I may have 313 call in a little bit and chime in and do a pitch for his show. But 313 Show is a podcast. They get together. They're out of Detroit. They're a great group of people. They talk about hip hop. They don't just talk about Tupac and Biggie. They talk about a lot of other hip hop things. And if you get the chance to download one of their podcasts, you'll see it's really loose. It's entertaining. It's kind of fun. And when I get on the show, I have a good time doing it. So, you know, quick shout out there as well. You know, we'll talk a couple things about the details a little bit more about the arrest. Yes, Reggie is out on bail right now. Day before yesterday, the federal government actually asked the court to seize and put what's called a lis pendens, which is actually an intention to foreclose on both Reggie Wright Jr. and Reggie Wright Sr.'s houses. We have copies of them up on the Tupac Assassination Facebook page. You can go see those if you'd like to. But we definitely have some, you know, obviously concerns, because the federal government's way of doing business is generally to basically take everything you have away from you, so that way you don't have the assets and the resources to, you know, to go hire big expensive attorneys and all of that. I do know that there may be some problems with the defense, you know, of this. I mean, it's kind of hard. I saw the indictment. I mean, it's kind of hard to play stupid about this when the checking accounts from Wells Fargo Bank and Bank of America, these checking accounts, I'm not sure which of the banks they were, but several of the accounts that this money was coming and going from had the name Reggie Wright, I mean, on the checking account name. I would have thought maybe he'd have put some dummy company together or had some, you know, second cousin twice removed with their name on the bank account. But it's pretty bold that you yourself put your own name on a bank account and you got this money running back and forth. And, you know, we'll take this a step further. I mean, this is what we know on the paper side of the indictment, that in this indictment, it lists all the bank accounts, all the withdrawals. If you go back and look at my interview with Jesse, we show a lot of the deposits and a lot of the withdrawals that the federal government said were being made since 2013. So think about that. That's like 4 years. And they've been watching these guys, and they've been watching the deposits. They've been watching the withdrawals. And you think about it and you say, okay, well, wait a minute. How do we know that that ties anybody to anything? So somebody puts some money in a bank account. Well, you got to realize that Wells Fargo and Bank of America have cameras in every single one of the bank's facilities there. So they watch who walks in and walks out of the bank at a certain time when the deposit was made. And then they give that camera footage to the police, and the police can identify on the cameras who that person is. So they know if a drug dealer or a guy that they know they just saw out on surveillance selling drugs, or he's a known drug dealer, goes in, walks into a Bank of America, and at 2:05 and 34 seconds fills out a deposit slip and puts it in the bank account Reggie Wright Jr. for X amount of money, and then the Bank of America out in California, or the Wells Fargo Bank out in California, who also has a lot of cameras in the bank. You know, bank's got a lot of cameras, high definition cameras. In fact, I think they're high definition color cameras, so they can get a nice clear still of the person there making the withdrawal out of that bank account. You would, of course, need to ask yourself, why would somebody from Tennessee be putting deposits in Reggie Wright Jr.'s bank account? Why? And that's where this whole thing starts, and it's kind of where the whole thing ends, because this is how they trace it. Now, give you a little bit of background, kids, on this, and then we'll get to some questions here. And listen, I do not want to get off on, and we mentioned 313, Jeff Kean. You know, I don't want to get into this whole thing, and we're going to start kicking people off the conversation if we get sidetracked on the beef that's going on between 313 and Tanique and people's feeling about it. Okay, let's stick to the topic at hand. I'd really like to do that. So, you know, because the whole point of this isn't about any one person's belief. It's not about 313. It's not about Tanique reviews. It's not about Michael Carlin. Not about R.J. Bond. Not about Jesse Surratt. This is about the team coming together to talk about the issues that really matter, and it's a waste of our time. And I'm just telling you guys this right now. It's a waste of our time to get on here and do this show and dig up the information that we've got from you and the clips that we have to show for you and the special things that we do if all we're going to do is spend our time just working on, you know, people's beefs with each other. It just doesn't work. And so we really want to stick to the things at hand. That's all I'm going to say about that. Looking at Operation Big Spender for a minute, okay? Yeah, I don't like Wells Fargo either, just for the record. That was that, Adam. I don't like Wells Fargo either. Operation Big Spender, as we talked about in Battle for Compton, started with a bunch of financial transaction allegations and indictments, which then led to the investigation of the sheriffs. It then led to other crimes, which led to that. So when you're looking at these things and you use Operation Big Spender, which was another federal prosecution that starts with the financial parts of it and then goes into other parts after that, what you're going to notice is that if you watch that and go, hey, check this out. It starts with the finance stuff, but then they serve a bunch of search warrants and people roll over on each other and people snitch on each other, and it leads to other things. Operation Big Spender had like 5 or 6 waves of prosecutions. So in my opinion, I don't think we're anywhere near understanding the full comprehension of what the investigation is. They got enough for the federal grand jury to seal the indictment, get the indictments against the guys, and issue a bunch of more search warrants and execute those search warrants. So it started with the financial stuff, but some of the juicier things may come later other than just money laundering and that. But as Jesse pointed out, and we said earlier at the end of Battle for Compton, you know, Al Capone did a lot of bad things too, but the only thing at the end of the day they caught him for was tax evasion. So maybe that's enough to put him away.
There's been a little bit of discrepancy about what kind of time that Reggie Wright Jr. and Sr. are facing. Could you provide a little bit more clarity to what kind of time they would be facing if convicted?
Well, hang on a second. So basically, Vinnie Mac, you know, just let's. If you think my voice is annoying, go fuck yourself. Go someplace else. Okay? How's that? I don't need people here on this thing telling me that my voice is annoying. You don't like my voice? Go watch something else, okay? Let's ban this guy. Who's this, Vinnie Mac? Let's get rid of this guy. Vinnie Mac 330. Let's get rid of this dude. Can we do that?
I gave you the power to do it.
How do I do that?
Just click on their name and it should bring up but I can do it as well. We have a moderator here, Mike, if he's still in here.
Mike. Yeah, Mike. Okay, yeah, you know what, Mike? Yeah, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. All right. He's gone. Next one. So anyway, hey, listen, let's talk about this guy up here. There's a guy up here that's got a moniker of Reggie Wright Jr., and he's got a picture of Reggie Wright Jr. on here. You know, we know you're not the real Reggie Wright Jr., so, you know, go do something else with yourself. You know, you're not the real Reggie Wright Jr. The real Reggie Wright Jr. is not going to get on this fan board. Okay, they're not going to get into the discussion here. He's got enough bigger fish to fry than what we have to say. So, you know, just, you know, please go find someplace else. Go buy a Halloween costume. You know, go down to, you know, the local, you know, dress up place and go pretend to be somebody someplace else, please. All right. So, and by the way, Mike, let's just get rid of this guy. This guy's an idiot. Let's just get rid of him. All right. So check that. All right. So let's talk. Let's be positive now, shall we? Okay. So here's another question. Okay. So what does this mean to our friend Greg Kading? What does this mean to Mr. Kading? Does it mean anything at all? Does Reggie Wright's indictment have anything to do with Greg Kading and have anything to do with murder rap? Because I've been asked this 100 times now. We don't know. I mean, you know, I personally think that it's kind of, I think it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting that a guy who professes to be such a high-powered private investigator and supposed to have all these federal contacts. I mean, this isn't something that just happened. They've been watching Reggie Wright and tracing these financial transactions since 2013. And by the way, once the federal government gets in your bank accounts and got search warrants and get into your bank accounts, you think they just got into those bank accounts and that's the only bank accounts of Reggie Wright's that they did anything about? Hell no. Once they're in your shit, they are in your shit. Nobody's going to argue with that for a minute. Okay. We know that the federal government, once they get an authorization and they're working with the bank to find out what your transaction, your financial records are, just because they mentioned a few of them in that indictment doesn't mean that they don't know anything about anything. So they're going to look into all of that. And they're also going to look into all of Reggie Wright's business affiliations because they want to see what the breadth of his business affiliations are. And since we know that, Mr. Kading and Mr. Wright have done a bunch of work together, and I don't know what their business relationship is, quite honestly. I know that Mr. Wright participated pretty heavily in murder rap and could have been for a percentage of the money. I don't know. Mike Dorsey's supposed to be online. Maybe he can tell us whether or not Reggie Wright got a portion of the money or a percentage of the proceeds from murder rap for his participation in the show. Because I know a lot of people try to get Reggie to do something and he wouldn't do it without getting paid.
Well,
so.
I mean, if Mike Dorsey has the balls to come on here, I think that they would rather sit in their echo chamber over at another forum where they can just talk to like-minded individuals and ban everybody else.
All five of them. That's all five people. And that's fine. They can do that. But, at the end of the day, I guess the point of what I'm saying here is that, and this is just RJ Bond's personal opinion, freedom of speech and all that, but I'm going to tell you that if I were Greg Kading right now, I'd be a little concerned about what my business dealings have been done with Reggie Wright, both as an informant while I was working for the LAPD in the cases that he may have helped us with, or helping us with the investigation and what that means for the credibility of the investigation. I also think that if there was any business dealings regarding murder rap or just that check that you guys went out to Cheesecake Factory, Greg and Sharitha and Reggie, decided to have dinner together, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know who picked up the tab for that. Maybe that would show up on Reggie's checking account. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I would consider myself to have some pause for concern because whether or not he wants to admit it now, he's associating with people that have been indicted. And if they're convicted felons and they become convicted felons, then he's been associating for the past several years with convicted felons and drug traffickers. So,
And they are actively distancing themselves from Reggie as we speak.
Well, sure, and they're going to play dumb and play plausible deniability and say, oh, we didn't know. Well, of course you didn't know because Kevin Hackey didn't tell anybody about this in 1998, 1999, and I'm going to say this personally to everybody that's listening. If Greg Kading were half a man, he would apologize to Kevin Hackey about everything negative he said about him. Mr. Hackey had a felony conviction that was overturned by the court, so he does not have a felony conviction. Mr. Hackey called this all the way down the line, and maybe the LAPD didn't let you see these documents because you were not allowed to see them by your bosses. I don't know, but, Kevin Hackey was interviewed. Kevin Hackey talked about it. We posted what Kevin Hackey had to say up on the Facebook page there. And if you were any kind of a man at all, you give an apology to Kevin Hackey because he called it all the way down the line. So we'll see how it shakes out. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are business associates of Reggie Wright who, by extension, would do that. Okay, so I'm Yo Pusher. No, Kevin Hackey is not dead. I just spoke to Kevin Hackey yesterday. If he's calling me from beyond the grave, that would be a very long distance phone call. So he's not dead. Let's see here.
Vaping's bad for your health, guys. Don't smoke.
Yeah, well, and by the way, cigars are not good for your health. I don't know who the fuck came up with that one, but they're not. Just saying, that's my public service announcement for the day.
Kevin is absolutely still alive. There's been some stuff going around about Frank Alexander. Did you want to talk about that, or you want to wait for a little bit?
Well, we're going to talk. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I want to get back over on the case about what's going on, so we kind of get rid of this whole thing about what's going on with the Wright investigation. First off, we're going to keep track of it. We're going to know what's going on. We're going to let you guys know what's going on. I haven't checked today. I don't expect any traction on the federal side of things for a day or two. Those come in the form of motions and pleadings that are filed with the federal courts, and will let us know. That's how we found out that the federal government wanted to try to take both their houses. You know, that way they don't have that. But my guess is that Reggie probably used his house as collateral to secure his bail, and now he's out on bail. Now, the thing about that is that bail could be revoked at any particular given point in time, and we'll see how long that lasts or what the conditions of the bail are. So, RJ, why doesn't anyone talk to Suge? Well, we would like to talk to Suge. Fortunately, Suge has 2 layers of insulation. He's in prison, number one, and number two, he's surrounded by attorneys that don't really want him talking to people. So that's the question. What else we got here? Let's see here.
People were asking about a gun. Apparently that rumor from the last live stream is kind of going around.
What about the gun? Oh, that we're following the gun, that we're chasing down a lead on the gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and these things again, okay, so you want to hear about the gun. Here's the latest about the gun. Fuck all. No, we haven't done anything with it right now from a couple weeks ago. You look, these things take a long time to do. These things are very, very slow, guys. I would love to like have instant information for you all and be running this thing at 80 miles an hour. You know, I mean, how long did it take between Assassination 2 and 3? That was almost 2009 to 2017. That was 8 years. So, you know, we're not doing that. And I know if it goes, yeah, okay, Assassination 4, here it comes. Oh, no. But at the same time, you know, we're still collecting this stuff. It does take time. So just to let you know, the minute we break some stuff about it, we will for sure.
And yes, guys, I am going to talk to you. I am going to talk to you. If you had some questions, go. That is a Risky print behind me. I got it from Risky. He's a bit of an asshole, but his work is quality, like I've said before. I mean, he always comes through with quality products. Personally, he's kind of a dickhead. But other than that, yeah, that's a Risky print.
All right, so let's see here.
They're asking about Malcolm Patton's video.
You know what? Yeah, guys, I'm really sorry about that. And I kind of guess I need to know, because we talked about a little bit about this last week. You know, I'm dealing with some family things right now. Things are moving a little slower on the Tupac front because I'm dealing with some family things right now. And my mother passed away, my stepmom actually, and so we're still dealing with that. But you know, we're going to be out of that here in the next few days. I look forward to getting the Patton video done. And I'm going to be honest with everybody and say it's not quite as earth-shattering as the Danny Patton stuff was, but I do believe and I do think that when you watch the Malcolm Patton video, I mean, the spoiler alert is that yeah, he lied, but at the end of the day, I think what you're going to see is you're actually going to understand the dynamic between Malcolm Patton and Danny Patton is explained by Ms. Constantine, and you know, her beliefs as to kind of even how this all went down. So it's going to be fun. Look forward to it. You know, I'm going to try to put something together, being the holiday weekend and all. People are going to be gone and stuff, but maybe towards the end of next week, hopefully maybe even before the live stream next week, or maybe we'll just premiere it on the live stream. What do you think about that? Maybe we'll just debut it on the live stream.
Not a bad idea. You're getting a lot of condolences in the thread. I've seen about 25, 30 so far.
Man, well, thank you. And I'm not trying to milk this or anything like that. I don't want to try to get too personal about things, but, you know, clearly things slow down when you have family matters. Everybody understands that. Things slow down a little bit. So that was the only reason why I said that. But thank you, guys. I appreciate all the love and everything.
You guys asked me specifically, was Reggie and his father trying to make a deal? In my opinion, and I'm just speculating, Reggie Sr. has the lesser charges, if you want to put him that way. He's older. A 5-year, 10-year sentence to him is probably a life sentence. So I think he is the weakest link. And if they do go to people to start cutting deals, he would be the likely person. I think that if it gets down to the wire, if Reggie Wright Jr. was anything like a stand-up guy, which he's not, that he would not let his dad take a fall. Even if I was in that situation, I wouldn't let my dad take the fall, innocent or guilty.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we don't understand fully the knowledge that the federal prosecutors have of what Reggie Wright Sr.'s involvement was with Reggie Wright Jr. We don't know which Reggie Wright was on the bank accounts. We don't know. I mean, it could have been something. Reggie Sr. could have been as benign as maybe Reggie Sr. was one of those guys walking into the bank to make one of those withdrawals. Reggie asked him to stop by the bank and grab 10 grand out of the bank, or 30,000, or 26,000, or 80,000, whichever one of the withdrawals that they made. That maybe Dad went in and the security cameras caught Dad making a withdrawal. Could have been an innocent mistake, but I think not. Because the federal government, by the time they're going to do an indictment, this is the case is called the United States of America versus Wright. It's not the United States of America versus John Smith, and these guys were just kind of ancillary players. These are the main players, and they have a whole series of indictments called the Wright indictments. So, I think that whatever they've got on Reggie Wright Sr. is substantial. We're looking into what it is they have on them. I have reached out to the prosecution team to find out, and if I find out, we'll let you know. Rolex Enterprise said, so the patent is a lie. No, the patents are liars. The patents are according to Susan Constantine, liars, I should say. We believe that they have lied on the tape of what their interview said, the heavily edited interview. And want to also thank the fans, because our response in Susan Constantine's review of the patents video actually has more views on it than when the Murder Rap team put that quote-unquote rebuttal video out in the first place. So there's more people actually interested in what we have to say about the patents video than the patents video itself. So, we got some major traction there. And I like that because that helps us control the narrative. So no, the patents are still heavily involved in all this. We're still, pursuing them, and we're still working that. So just want to let you know that. Hold on here, let's go.
This hat is a Walmart hat, not Dollar Tree, sir. I paid a hard-earned $10 for it. I never understood men that critique another man's clothes.
Well, that's all right. Well, you look sexy, so it's okay. What can you tell?
Why, thank you.
Yeah, you're on Fisherman's Weekly, I think. That would be the magazine for you. All right, so check this out. Richard Perez says, what if it's all just part of an even bigger conspiracy? Never mind, you ain't trying to hear that. Well, again, we try to limit what we know. I mean, you could certainly theorize things all day long and go to all these extremes to try to find things out. But at the end of the day, I mean, we'll take it as far as we can based on proof and evidence. So, what if it is all part of a bigger conspiracy? Sure, why not? We are trying to hear that, but more importantly, we're trying to prove that. So just let you know. See.
Have you been listening to the Gene Deal interviews?
No, I haven't. I have not. Listen, I've had conversations over conversations, and had conversations with Eugene Deal on the phone. I was listening to the conversation he was having. I was there when Randall Sullivan and Perry Sanders and I, called Eugene Deal to get some clarification on some comments that, about Murder Rap and Mr. Kading and all that. So, I know where Eugene stands on a lot of things, but I do want to tell you that I'm concerned for Eugene because, two things. Number one, Eugene is very passionate about what he believes, and he's putting it out there, but I'm afraid that the image he's projecting is that of a really pissed off guy. And when you have a guy that's a really pissed off guy, sometimes your message can get caught up in the fact that you're a pissed off guy. So maybe some people won't be hearing as much about it because you're pissed off. And now, again, I'm not saying he is. I'm saying he's passionate about what he believes, and I think he's seriously motivated by what he believes. But it kind of looks like you're venting, and you're kind of getting on a vent. And there are certainly people that will appreciate that, but I'm not sure that your message isn't going to get tangled up in that. So, I hope for Eugene and the more interviews that he does that shines through. So.
Well, in my own opinion, I've watched him. He says a lot of interesting things. There's not a lot of follow through, and the production quality's kind of low on it. I was kind of expecting more, But I think RJ's right when he says that his passion for it is kind of it's overshadowing the stuff he says, because it feels to me like he's so quick to just blurt out information that he's really not giving us a lot of context to go with. That's why I haven't talked much about the Eugene deal when I've been asked.
So let's see. Sorry about that. Getting some noise there. Somebody said stand up so I can roast that ugly ass shirt. Yeah. Okay. Nice. So, good question. Whatever happened to Trayvon? I don't know. You know, Trayvon's out trying to. There it is. There's the shirt right there. There it is.
This is a Machiavelli branded shirt, haters.
Oh.
OG 2007. You can't even buy this shit.
No.
I thought you guys were Pac fans. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right.
Okay.
and kudos to Biggie's mom for coming out with the with people coming out to Kardashians trying to make a quick buck off of Biggie and Pac with the T-shirts, and Valletta Wallace stopping that shit cold in its tracks. Nice, very, very good about that. So I thought that was a quick shout out to Valletta Wallace there. That was nice. Let's see here. Puff and Reggie going to share a cell? I don't think so. Let's see here. RJ Bond, do you think about Russell Poole's death? Did they choke him out, or did Russell Poole really die in a freak accident that could break the case? So Chef Disaster Plates Prevention. Oh, that's a heck of a long name there. Well, I think that these are developing facts, it's a developing story. As far as I know, and I think Michael was pretty clear about this, that he received some information. He's waiting to see if that information can be corroborated at all. I think the family's waiting to see if that information can be corroborated at all. The information that he received was that somehow or another Russell Poole was knocked unconscious in the meeting he had with the LA County sheriffs, and that they used a defibrillator to try to stop his heart. So, this is developing information, and everybody knows that my style is that I don't usually, run with something until I'm reasonably sure that it's, that it's a solid lead. So again, I'm just saying that I don't know yet. I don't know. So, and could it break the case? Well, I know it depends on what case you're trying to break. If you're trying to break if Russell Poole was murdered, I'm not sure it would break that case wide open. But in terms of the Tupac and Biggie case, I'm not sure where that leads.
There's been a lot of questions about Snoop. Do you feel Snoop's... Battle for Compton does say it. If you guys want to go on Amazon, Amazon Prime, you can stream it for free. I implore all of you to actually go watch that movie. But for those that haven't, RJ, how do you feel that Snoop ties into this, and do you feel like he has some culpability in this murder? I know the answer to that, but just
well, yeah. I mean, let's just kind of put it out there like this, okay? If you have knowledge about something and you say nothing, then you're as guilty as the person who pulled the trigger yourself, as far as I'm concerned. I think if you have knowledge or even rumors and you do nothing to warn the right people about it, Snoop was the first one when he got caught at the LA County Sheriff's Station when he's being chased. They asked who killed Tupac. He said the guy sitting next to him. So, clearly Snoop has it in for Suge. We know about that beef, but we also talk in Compton about the battle between the Crips and the Bloods at Death Row Records, and we talk about the Dog Pound group and how they really weren't too happy about the way things are going around there. And so we kind of, again, I've got my opinion about things. Jesse's got his opinion about things. The object of the assassination movies is not to tell you how to think. Okay, we need to make that clear. We're not here to tell you how to think. Okay, we don't need to spoon feed it to you and walk you down this path and say you need to think this way. What we do is we put the facts out there and we put the information out there and we give you an opportunity to make a decision for yourself. Some are going to believe it, some aren't going to believe it, and that's okay. There was a lot of people that thought that Reggie Wright was a stand-up citizen and that the world owed Reggie Wright an apology. Okay, Greg Kading said, Reggie Wright should be owed an apology. He helped work on Murder Rap, and he was very vital to their investigation. So, you know, I'm sure he was.
I believe that you're owed an apology. And I've said that publicly, and I'll say it again. I think that there's a lot of people that owe you an apology.
Well, you know, everybody asked if I feel vindicated, and like I said in my interview, I think I feel justified. I think that, you know, that we had enough information that, you know, one person can dream, not two people have the same dream. I mean, you know, there's a lot of people there. Reggie Wright had a lot of bad background. I mean, you know, the case with Dwayne Bowdy, he was found responsible for having guys beat up at Death Row Records. I mean, he was around every time there was an altercation that happened at Death Row Records. Reggie Wright wasn't far away. You know, there's a lot of other things that are kind of off the menu items. We don't bring them in the assassination movies, but there's some other very odd coincidental things that Reggie Wright was in the middle of that we just don't bring to the table in the assassination movies because we only have so long to tell you about them, and then we kind of have to move on. But, you know, again, you know, I'm hoping that the information that comes from other people, maybe not afraid of Reggie or not afraid of reprisal by anybody, may step forward with information. I do believe that there will be other waves of prosecution that come out of that. So we'll just leave it at that.
And I just real quick, I wanted to chime in on the Snoop thing. I think that the winds of change are starting to blow. Faison Love, who has no dog in this fight, just came out and made a statement that, because RJ, what he was touching upon is if you know something and you don't say anything, that you're just as culpable. When you have Faison Love, who played Big Worm on Friday, if nobody knows who that is, coming out and basically, you know, saying that, that's not going to help his career. So he must feel a certain type of way to come out and say that about Snoop. His quote was that Snoop could have prevented it and Tupac would still be alive had he not crossed Snoop. So take from that what you will.
Okay, you know what? Changing gears for a minute. You know, Supreme Hustle 82. I bought it. Battle for Compton is deep. What about Omar Bradley and his knowledge of the Compton PD corruption? Well, you know, I think that's a great question. We don't talk about it a lot, but, you know, Omar Bradley, you know, he was interviewed for our movie. I mean, we talked a lot about that. Omar Bradley was instrumental in closing down the entire Compton Police Department because of corruption. And you got to know that's a pretty drastic step because there are other things you can do if there's a corrupt police department. For example, you can replace the chief of police. You can replace the police commission board. You can restaff the entire administration. There's just a number of things on a sliding scale that you can do to close down a police department. But a police department has to be pretty darn corrupt if you're just going to close it down in its entirety and not even care anymore about who's corrupt and who's not. That said, we know that the mayor of a city gets these kinds of reports, these corruption reports, these things about the police. They get this information and they have to make a decision on how they want to handle it. So does the chief of police. They all get this information and how the chief of police handles the issues that are being brought up, like the missing evidence from the evidence locker or the guns that was used to kill or try to kill Brian Watt, a police officer in Long Beach, that come out of the Compton evidence locker. I mean, you know, how he wants to deal with that is up to the police chief. But if he doesn't do a good job, he's appointed and hired by the mayor, so the mayor can get rid of him. So Omar Bradley has a lot of knowledge about the Compton corruption, and it's our personal belief that that was part of why they put an assassination campaign against him, both physically and, more importantly, in the court of public opinion, to have this whole corruption. It's kind of ironic that the very people accusing him of being corrupt over a couple of credit card charges are the ones walking $170 million worth of drugs out of the evidence locker. So I think now, especially in light of it, if you go back and you look at who was on what sides of that particular corruption case, the ones that were making the allegations against Omar Bradley, and of course Omar Bradley on the other side, if you look at the people that were making the most noise about it, like you shouldn't mess around with the Compton PD and all that, you know, that the reason Omar Bradley had those charges, Reggie Wright Sr. put it out there. He said the reason that Omar Bradley caught those corruption charges because he was messing with the Compton PD. So, you know, when you have that kind of information out there and you look at both sides of that, maybe you should be looking at the Omar Bradley case a little bit differently, because the accusers in that case are not exactly, shall we say, model citizens at this point.
We have one of our critics here, Machiavelli Mecca. And he wants to know if we believe that Tanique's reviews claims of Greg Kading being inside the MGM Grand and the Wrights being responsible for Eazy-E, if we believe that.
Okay, great question. Here's the deal. We have people that get information from us both through our movies and through our books and through the information that we put out. I almost don't want to answer this question because I've watched what this guy is doing, this Machiavelli Mecha guy, and I've seen what he does. And what he tries to do is play two ends against the middle. He tries to take information. If I say somebody is doing something wrong or discredit it, then he uses it against them to try to extinguish their information. It's a divide and conquer tactic. It's pretty transparent. But for the record, one of the things I do want to say is that we have certain people that are putting videos out there, and I'm going to speak about that in a second, that are putting videos out there that are making statements that are just completely batshit false. Okay, they are just batshit false. There's not a single evidence of truth to them. And what concerns me about it was in the assassination movies, we've taken a lot of great pains to make sure the things we were talking about are fairly well documented and are backed up. Since Machiavelli Mecha is on the line, I will personally address the issue of him saying that Tupac assassination Battle for Compton said that Suge Knight tried to kill Tupac. Dude, I will release the transcript of the movie to you. You can read every single word in that. And in fact, not only do we not say that in that movie, we took great steps to make sure we didn't say it because we weren't quite sure at that time whether or not he was directly involved. So your summary dismissal or your summary judgment of the movie is not well taken at all. And in fact, if you go and look what the narrator says, and I would know because I wrote the narration for the movie, that when we say Suge Knight, that Reggie Wright, either with or without Suge Knight's knowledge, did this, that's pretty clear that we were ambivalent on whether or not Suge Knight had anything to do with it or not. So I'd really like you to walk that back and go back. And like I said, I'll release a transcript of the movie so you can read it. And then I'll just kind of trust your judgment to see whether or not you're man enough to walk back your original statement there.
And I want to say this too. You know, I'm just going to be, I'm not here to insult people, but I'm going to say this. I see a lot of people that believe in the Orlando Anderson theory, and you know what? It's like an echo chamber. You guys, you know, you believe that and you have every right to, and I'm not mad at you for it. But when you always talk to people that you agree with, you never sharpen your intellect. We might have a small knit group of people that work well together, a Mike Carlin and RJ Bond, you know, but disagreements and different lines of thinking is, like RJ has said on many occasions, steel sharpens steel. So, you know what? It takes critical thinking to get definitive answers. So if you're sitting in a room full of people agreeing with each other, where's the conversation going to lead you? But a big fucking circle jerk.
That's a good point. So, but let's get in front of something though too, because I am, you know, there's a fella out there. He goes by the Tanique Reviews. He's a guy who likes to do a blog, and you know, originally when we first started working with him, you know, we felt like that he was a person that could get information out to a particular different group of people than we would talk to. And of course, anytime you have somebody that's willing to help you talk about things and get to a group of people and speak to a different group of people, you know, sometimes, and this is many different businesses that this way, even the sales industry works like this. You can have one voice that can say something and nobody will believe it. Another voice says it, it's the exact same thing, and for some reason they believe that voice. So, you know, originally we had hoped and I had hoped that this guy would have been an accurate presenter and an accurate representation of the material that he had requested from us. He had been watching several videos, and he'd watched Battle for Compton and said good things about it. And as we were going through there, he asked for clarification on certain things, and as we do with everyone who asks for them, we give them documents, we show them information, we show them what we have, we send them information. He wanted the information about Kevin Hackey. I sent to Kevin Hackey's interview transcript so that he could see that. There is one thing I don't like. If I'm giving you information and I'm helping you to get where you need to be, don't try to claim it like it's your own. Don't claim it like you went out and you did all the legwork and you went out down to the courthouse and you pulled the paperwork and you did all that yourself. That gets under my skin first and foremost, because I spent 10 years researching this stuff, and I'm not going to be disrespected by some Johnny-come-lately who decides he gets a couple of documents so he's got an opinion on the world, and he's treating it like he's the one who broke this case open. Okay, so let's get that out there first. The second thing that I want to talk about with that is I watched a video just recently that was an absolute, Tanique put out, that was an absolute abomination. Most of the time I can deal with people who get the facts wrong about stuff, and this guy has a repeated track record of just getting shit wrong, period. I mean, when you say that the same gun was used to kill Biggie and Tupac, you know, that really bothers me, because you do that bad information in the same breath that you mentioned Tupac assassination, Battle for Compton, which, by the way, I notice he's not saying much about anymore, nor is he mentioning my name. And in fact, he's blocked me on Facebook, so you can tell where that's going to go. And I think the reason he blocked me on Facebook was just because I have a track record of putting information out for him. He gets the information, then he releases a video, and I've got the paper trail behind that. So, you know, when he wants to jump off there and say nobody's helping him and he's doing his own channel and he's not getting any help from anybody, I do think that that's a problem. He released a video about Frank Alexander, and I want to speak to that for a minute, because Frank Alexander was not only my best friend since 1998, and by the way, actually late part of 97. And by the way, somebody asked if I knew Frank in 2004, and yes, I did. Frank and I were actually very close in 2004. Frank Alexander has been godfather to my oldest son. We had a great relationship the entire time that we knew each other. We were on the phone constantly with each other. Jesse and everybody who knows either one of us knows that we had nothing but high regard for each other. When Tanique put out this interview about Frank Alexander's death, he made certain statements in there, and he, again, as I've admonished him not to do, he stated things like as if they were fact. For example, he said that Kathy Kading, who was Greg Kading's sister, was having an affair with Frank Alexander on his wife, and that somehow had something to do with the murder of Tupac Shakur. You see, guys, this is what actually hurts everybody, because when you put out batshit crazy information that is just not true, there's not a shred of evidence to it, and you're running around in the same camp as we are, and you're saying the same things that we are, and you're mentioning on my name and dropping Michael Carlin's name and all this, and you're mentioning this batshit crazy, it makes us all look nuts because you're reckless and you don't care about the facts, and that's a problem. You want to pontificate on something, and you want to start it by saying, hey, this is my opinion, like I generally do, this is my opinion about something, that's fine. But don't state this shit like it's fact. For example, Frank Alexander and Kathy Kading were friends. They knew each other, and I actually knew both of them. But that whole thing ended in 1999. So I don't know what the hell you're coming off saying, Tanique, that they were having an affair on his wife. And Frank wasn't even married when he knew Kathy Kading. And I'm not going to sit there and say relationship or anything else, because I don't know. I know that I met Kathy. She was very nice. I've never said anything bad about her. She was very friendly to me, very nice person, and she did not deserve to get drug into your shit when you start saying that Frank Alexander had an affair on his wife with Kathy Kading, and that somehow ties into your theory about why Frank Alexander was killed, or that Frank's wife was having an affair with the cop across the street. I have never seen a greater bunch, and you can watch any of my interviews. I've done, Jesse, how many interviews have I done about Frank and Frank's death?
I know that total we've done 47 interviews together, and out of those probably about 7 directly about Frank Alexander.
All the facts of what I know about Frank Alexander's death are all out there. And what I tell is the facts. I don't go into all that shit. And there are facts that are there. And to sit there and have all of this information out in front of you and have all this information there and to screw it up so badly gets under my skin. But when you go after somebody that was my best friend and say that his marital infidelities, and by the way, what the fuck business of it is yours? What relationship he had with Kathy Kading? If Kathy introduced him to Greg Kading and that's exactly what happened, and they got introduced, why is that a conspiracy? Okay, maybe Greg Kading was being opportunistic and seeing that Kathy Kading knew Frank casually. That was years later, and asked her to reach out to Frank for them. But that was years that had passed between those times. And to sit there and then go on to say that Frank's wife was having an affair with the cop across the street, I don't know where you get that information from. You can't prove that information. That's slanderous information. And by saying it had something to do with Frank being killed, I'm sorry, dude, but that is way over the line. That should have never been put out. Anything you should have said publicly. I'm sorry to Kathy Kading that she got drug into that salacious bit of information there. I think it's inappropriate. I think that, like I said, it's an abomination. And again, like I said, had I not gotten on with Tanique and sent, and I've got copies of all the chats. Sorry, when you delete Facebook, you didn't delete all the chats that I had with you about it, Tanique, that I told you specifically over and over again, you want to state your opinion. It's your opinion. State it as such. Don't state it as fact. Never state it as fact. Always your opinion.
And I would like to add, no matter how much people might disagree with somebody's theory, or if that you don't like Greg Kading, no matter what, even if that was true, family is just off limits. When you start talking about your competition or the other side's family, it's bad taste and it's not necessary. I don't fuck with that. I can't respect that. And that's the only thing I have to say about that situation is families are off limits. We're not going to talk about Greg's sister. It's nobody's business, and I'm not going to talk about anybody's family.
Yeah,
it's poor taste.
It is, but you know, it not only is it poor taste. I mean, listen, you can take it a certain level. I got pissed off at Greg Kading, and I still am, that he revealed my name and my address, personal information out on several websites, and he asked Jesse to put my personal information out on the web. I think that was below the belt, and it was unnecessary. And you know, and I took action what I thought was appropriate at the time, and they vented that as well. So ultimately, like I said, I'm just I don't subscribe to people that just put random bullshit out, that just make stuff up as they go along. I don't promote that, and I think it makes a bad name for everybody who's out there actually trying to do the work. And that's what we try to do. We try to use the facts. We try to stick with what we know. And the thing about Russian satellites flying over Vegas in 1996, you know, come on. I mean, you know, where are you getting that information from? That, I mean, okay, yeah, you went to the Russian embassy to find out. I mean, isn't that just like kind of knocking on the door of the police station and say, hey, I want to talk to the commissioner? You know, it just reminds me of that scene from Blank Man. You know, it just, when you put yourself above the game, that's when I start to have a problem with it. Because most people that know me know I'm pretty humble, and I never really try to put myself up above the game itself. No player is bigger than the game itself. And although, you know, I make these movies and I'm part of that, you know, I don't sit there and say this is all about me. So when somebody starts to do that shit, nah, sorry, you're on the wrong side of my fence, dude. And that's all I got to say about that for now.
I wanted to address that. We've had a couple people ask about Little Half Dead. Asking about interviewing Little Half Dead, what's he gonna say? I did it. He's gonna deny it. My inside knowledge is there is a company or a production studio that has interviewed him, and what I got from it is he said, I don't know nothing. It's just like when Sharifa Golden now went on TMZ. I mean, all you're going to get out of an interview like that is a denial. The question that I would have for him is the album cover, which has kind of been pseudo answered that it was a coincidence. I don't believe that it's a coincidence. I think it's an admission of guilt. RJ, I'd like to ask you what your thoughts are on Half Dead. I want to preamble that by saying, when RJ Bond and Russell Poole went to the LA County Sheriff's Department, LAPD, sorry, and with that information, it was leaked out on the internet, and it was labeled as the Little Half Dead theory, as an attempt to slander the information to make it uncredible from the jump. It's a slander name for it. To me, and I've always referred to it as the Patton confession letter. Do you have any thoughts on Little Half Dead, RJ? And I'm speaking for me right now.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, there's a few things. We've said this before. I mean, I'll just go back over it really quick. You know, ultimately, if you go back and you read the Patton confession letter, and really read it. Don't just gloss over the stuff about Little Half Dead and Brenda's got a baby. People get hung up on that right away. And we've talked about this before, and it's really, again, and this is something I had a conversation with Tanique, and he put it right out on his page, okay? Bottom line is that it doesn't matter if Little Half Dead did or didn't write Brenda's Got a Baby. If either he thought he did and he felt disrespected because he thought he did, or maybe he wrote something that sounded like it, and maybe that was something Tupac used, or he just want to run around and tell everybody, lay claim that he wrote it and that damn Tupac ripped off my music. There's not an ounce of truth to it, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't telling people that, and it doesn't mean he didn't tell the Pattons that. Okay, and when they met at a recording studio in Reseda, California, Little Half Dead met the Pattons. They got together. I mean, that was what was told. The Pattons told this letter. Pattons dictated this letter. This letter didn't come from Sharia. And when you start to look at this letter and you start looking at things like Little Half Dead being moved to Priority Records and being kicked off of Death Row Records, and that not bothering him, but that it did bother him that he was kicked off the label. You know, I'm sorry, but number one, no gangbanger in the Pyrus is actually going to know what the significance of that means. That would only mean something to two people, an artist or one person, an artist and an artist that's on the Dog Pound, that's with Death Row Records and got kicked down to Priority Records off of Death Row and had his contract kind of signed over by Suge. That's only going to matter to that artist. It's not going to matter to a gangbanger. And what's better is it's not going to matter to Robert Soria, because Robert Soria ain't going to know what the fuck they're talking about, because he's not an artist. He's not even a gangbanger. He's a guy that was somebody decided to tell some information to about the killing of Tupac. So, you know, Little Half Dead's story is Little Half Dead's story, what was told to the Pattons. And so, you know, and if the Pattons are liars, maybe they're liars. Maybe they just drug Little Half Dead into it. I don't know the truth of that. I know what the confession letter says. I know what the Pattons said about it. Okay, they're denying ever having written a letter. And of course, we kind of already sussed that out, you know, about lying about a whole lot of other things. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, Little Half Dead is still in play. I do know, like Jesse knows, that there is an interview with Little Half Dead that's floating around. We'll see if he wants to speak to the matter. But, you know, we can see which way it goes. And at any rate, the patent letter stands with or without Little Half Dead's involvement. The patent letter still talk about what they did. And if they want to talk about Little Half Dead being involved and it's true, then that's one thing. If they talk about Little Half Dead and it's not true, that's another thing. And that's what we have to find out. We got to get down to the bottom of this.
I will say this, that it's awful suspicious that his last album, you're asking about the album cover. The answer that I got from the producer of that album was the artist just randomly pulled images offline, and it was a complete coincidence. Even though the police report says that Gaddafi was shot in the right above the right eye, and that's exactly where the bullet wound is, in the head that looks like Gaddafi. And I want to bring to everybody's attention, the main single on that song is So Long Beach Strong, where he says, I used to keep a heater in the crease of my fleet, so when peace wasn't reached, I would reach for my peace. He's talking about a Cadillac. And there's so many coincidences to me that I think, just like RJ said, that he's got some explaining to do, and I doubt he's ever going to explain it, but do the I don't even know.
Oh, by the way, I do think Blank Man is a historical figure as well. That's probably the most underrated funny comedy that I've ever seen. So shout out to Blank Man. It is true. The album cover says it all. I mean, you know, why would anybody want to do that? We kind of talked about this last week or week before, but why would somebody want to take the time to put that on the album cover? I mean, it's just really it's not cool at all. Was Kevin Hackey an FBI agent? Yes. Kevin Hackey, and this is the thing about it. You know, people go back and forth of whether or not Kevin Hackey was an FBI agent or whether or not he was an FBI informant. Does it matter? I mean, that's the first question I would say. He was involved with the FBI. He had information and he gave information to the FBI. But more important than all of that, he sat down with Miller and Poole at the LAPD and gave down a whole rundown of exactly what was going on, even willing to wear a wire for them. And they said no. They turned him down, didn't wear a wire. And he gave them the information that was good about it. So the truth of the matter is, when the United States attorney comes out and says that they will not allow Kevin Hackey to testify about his involvement and his work, there's that word, not his help with, but his work with the ATF and the FBI.
Shout out to Matthew Strickland. Thank you for your support.
Yep. His work, not his help. Informants give help, informants give information, but his work with the FBI, I guess that pretty much says it all. But again, I don't want to get hung up on whether he was or wasn't, because it's material what he had to say, whether it's true or not. He could have been a garbage man, and if his information is correct, it's good. Let's see.
To the person in the chat that says that you miss me on the forum, I want you to take a good look at what you're seeing on your screen right now. That's why you don't see me on the forum. Because apparently if you even criticize that side of the camp, they don't allow you to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point too. You know, just because everybody loves to watch this, what you just disappeared off the screen there.
It's good.
Yeah,
okay. There's a delay. I fixed it.
Okay, good. We take banning people very, very seriously. We don't want people to be abusive. We don't want people to pick fights. We don't like that. We don't mind sharing ideas back and forth, and we certainly don't mind saying things. But, you know, there's no point in an abusive conversation. And again, like I said, you know, our assassination Facebook page, you know, we haven't banned Mike Dorsey. We haven't banned Greg Kading from that. They choose not to participate in that conversation. And, you know, of course, yes, do we take swaps at them? Constantly, okay? Because I think that you know, it's a joke. I think that the investigation was a nowhere investigation. I think it's right that they call a television show Unsolved. Although I don't think, like Donald Trump, I kind of feel like he does about POWs. I want to see cop shows about people that fucking solve cases, not people that can't solve a case when they've had fucking 5 years or 10 years or however long he had to work on it, actually, you know, solve something or actually do something different. And of course, you look at the last 6 years since he wrote that book Murder Rap, other than Mob James, what the heck has he produced? He's produced nothing. Okay, he's added nothing to the conversation at all. He's interviewed a bunch of people and talked about things and said the same shit over and over again for 6 years. Now he's doing a TV show. He's going to do the same thing again. He's going to do that. He's going to make some shit up, you know, in that as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, you know, now, I mean, I thought it was bad enough that you're a detective on the LAPD. You can't, you know, you got a case that's unsolved. They're going to do a TV show about the fact you couldn't do your job. For whatever reason. You can blame who you want to blame the LAPD, blame the media. You can blame whoever you want to. You didn't do your job. That's the bottom line. You know, you can blame that all day long, but you know, to do a TV show about your failure as a group to actually bring any closure to the investigation, it's kind of sad. But then you compound that on the fact that in 2013, when you're running around saying that Reggie Wright's a guy that everybody owes an apology to, and you're out having dinner with him, and you're appearing on National Geographic with him, and a bunch of shows on Reels with him, and you put him in your movie, and you're giving him that credibility, and you don't even know, with all your alleged federal contacts, you don't even know that there's an investigation going on this guy. You have federal contacts. That means that they're not telling you something for a reason. If you have federal contacts at the FBI and the DEA, you worked on all these task force, and all these cops carry the numbers of these people, and they can call people on the phone. They can get them on the phone. They can ask questions. These guys all know what's going on. You keep your ear to the ground about stuff. But if you're allegedly got all these contacts, and you call them up, and they're talking to you about whatever, their last hunting trip or whatever, and they don't mention to you that, by the way, there's an investigation going on some cat that you're hanging out with, and maybe you should be careful, or even if you ask about somebody and they're not going to tell you that there's an investigation going on, doesn't that tell you something about who your contacts are, number one, what they think of you, number two, and maybe you're the one being looked at with him as well? I mean, you never know. It's not just the person, it's whoever that person touches as well. So, I mean, they could be investigating me. The good news is I didn't hang out with Reggie Wright. He don't like me. Okay, so I kind of keeps me out of that harm's way a little bit, out of that alley. So, you know, I just do that. And by the way, the reason I'm getting on all this stuff is because I read a post from him where he said, fuck him, fuck RJ Bond. Well, you know what? Feelings mutual, dude. Okay, you know, your show Unsolved is going to be exactly that, and what's going to be unsolved about it is how few people actually watch the damn show and how low ratings it's going to be, and it's unsolved is how Universal ever approved it in the first place. So that's the end of that. All right.
Well, it might be unaired. Just
moving on
out there.
And we don't know. I mean, things happen. Sometimes shows get approved and sometimes they get canceled, you know. So let's see here.
What would you like to know, Galen? They're saying it's not dialogue, it's just you talking. Ask me a good question. What did
Oh,
Tommy
we are.
D tell
We get
you?
asked questions. We ask questions, and RJ gets on a 5-minute rant. That's okay, but sometimes you have things you got to say, right? Okay.
Not to interrupt this, but I'll be talking to Tommy D live on Monday, and you guys will be able to see that.
Okay, and Justin says, all I hear is these bullshit conspiracies and nothing positive about Pac's music. What the fuck channel did you turn on, dude? I mean, you know, this is a show about Tupac assassination, Battle for Compton. If the movie was called Tupac Assassination, Tupac's Great Music, then maybe we would do it. I mean, do either of us look like music critics to you? Anybody who knows my work knows that I've spent the last 10 years doing murder investigations. So, you know, I'm sorry we're not we're not ringing your bell by talking about Tupac music, but maybe you should go over the Tupac music channel. So just want to put that out there real quick. Mike, you didn't have to lead him. I mean, again, you know, I don't want to be too fast on the hatchet. Thank you, but I don't want to be too fast on the hatchet because I don't want people coming and thinking that we're just whacking them like that. It was kind of a legitimate question, but you know, clearly a little ignorant. So we'll just do like that. Let's see here. Let's see here. Manny Manala, what J-Mix can I join the family? Well, if you're watching this thing right now, you are part of the family. Let's see.
Yeah, I don't view you guys as subscribers. I view us as all fans. We're all Tupac fans. We all want to see, at least most of us, would like to see this murder solved. I'd like to see in my lifetime an arrest made and be able to be like, you know what? My hero when I was growing up, we helped to do that. And you guys are part of that too. This is not an exclusive thing. You would be surprised how much information comes from people just reaching out.
Oh yeah, and by the way, so great question here is where I just saw it. Okay, D Black is back, or D Jack is back. Sorry, D Jack. Sorry about that. It says, so have we moved any closer to solving the case? I think that's probably, if we're going to talk about anything that's beneficial at all from this recent bit of information here, is that, if nothing moves forward, if nothing changes, I mean, that was what Greg Kading's supervisor said. He said that we had leads, but nothing ever moved forward. We can never get any traction with them. They were the same old tired leads. That was his quote. I think that when we get information like this and we find out a little bit more than what we knew yesterday, certainly we had believed that there was a lot of suspicious illegal activity happening, and now the federal government tends to believe that too, and so did the grand jury. So we'll kind of leave it at that until we find out a little bit more. But I think that every time somebody is you find out more information than what you do yesterday, the case moves forward. The only time the case doesn't move forward is if there's no traction, if there's nothing and that's why they killed the murder rap investigation, because there was no forward movement. So it's a good time for that.
Okay, I would like to address something. Hold on. Okay, Street Punk says, you guys are basing all your info on the Patton brothers. They are known liars. They're known liars because RJ hired the best in the business to point that out. And they're also saying that the Little Half Dead album cover was made before Tupac was killed. That album came out in 2013. So unless he made that album cover 20 years prior, 17 years prior, you're wrong about that one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Kind of bad facts there. Yeah. And following up a little bit on what was your first comment? You said something. What was the first thing you said before
he said that the patent, we're basing it all on the patents, and they're known liars.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing about it. I mean, I think that's a great point. I think that is a very salient point. Okay. That these guys, we proved that these guys, when they were asked a specific question about things that they were involved with, they lied. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say they're liars, that as a general point of their character, that they're liars. I don't know them well enough to know that. I know that we had a person that's very good at what they did actually come out and vet what they had to say, and that they found that their answers were deceptive. Now, there's a lot of reasons that could happen. For right now, where we're leaving it for now is the fact that they're deceptive because they're being asked if they're involved in the murder of Tupac Shakur. Here's a letter saying that they were alleged to have been written by them. They're saying that they were involved. Now they're turning around and saying they're not involved, and they're lying about it. It's kind of a 1 + 1. It kind of cancels itself out. So, maybe they're just lying about part of it, but that's also, that's what we need to get down to the bottom of. And that's why I've put an open call out several times over. If we can come to a mutual agreement on a polygraph expert, somebody that can go in and actually is somebody that Mr. Kading or his crew and we can come up with that would that I would agree with, that I would think is a legitimate person or person beyond reproach, that would go in and do that and give those people a lie detector test. Let's do it. Let's see where it goes. I mean, the worst possible thing that can happen is that they're not the guys, or that the polygraph says that they're being honest about what they have to say. Okay, if that's the case, then where do we leave it? Okay, we're back to square one again. So ultimately, that's what's going to happen. But strangely enough, they haven't really kind of produced those guys to do that, and I don't see anybody jumping up to do that. You can certainly see what happened when Kevin Hackey put it out to Reggie Wright to do a lie detector test, and Reggie Wright said openly that he would, but then that never materialized. That never happened. And listen, let me tell you something. If I had my back up against the wall, I'd do a fucking lie detector test for free. Okay, because I would be more concerned about my reputation. I would be more concerned about those things than I would than that. If somebody was accusing me of some of the things that are being accused in this, I would want to make sure that people understood that I wasn't involved. Okay, that's the bottom line. So, I just, people are like, oh, RJ, why don't you take a lie detector? Why? Why do I have to take a lie detector test? I'm not the one being accused of murder here. So, ultimately, let's get it out there and let's talk about it. But I put the invitation out there. They don't listen.
Galen Kane, you said, why hasn't there been an open debate with Greg? I'm just going to answer that one first. I debated Greg. I debated him. Him and Anton Beatty. They buried that debate. They buried it. It wasn't a pretty debate. I'm not saying I even won the debate. It got real ugly. They refused to put it out. They wouldn't give me a copy. I have a partial copy. I might just put it out. But I know that there's the rest of the debate out there, so I run into a situation where there's not going to be a debate because, like RJ says, there's no debating. And I want real quick, I want to answer Jason or whoever it is that keeps shitting on us.
Hey, wait a minute. Before you jump onto that, let me say one thing real quick, okay? About that. Go back and listen to Greg Kading's interview with Michael Carlin, okay? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. The debate comes to somebody says something, somebody tries to make a fact, and the other one laughs at it, minimizes the guy, tells the guy he doesn't know what he's talking about, and how much more law enforcement experience he has, and were you ever a cop? And these kind of ad hominem attacks that really mean nothing because they're not talking about the issue at hand. They're actually trying to disqualify the person as what they think is an expert in the field and tries to minimize the argument. So even if you don't watch Jesse's thing, you can't see Jesse's thing, go back and watch Kading's interaction with Mike Carlin. I mean, Mark Carlin was ambushed. He didn't even know that those guys were going to call, and the guy called in and kind of ambushed him. Michael was just ready to answer some questions, and clearly every time Michael tried to ask a question or something like that, he was met with ridicule, and he was met with a lot of attacking his credibility when the question actually wasn't answered. And so if you don't get to see Jesse's interview, there's one out there. You can see what this made out of.
Mike's right. Why do we have to answer the Orlando Anderson question every time? The thing I want to say to Justin is, Justin's comment was they beat down a straight killer and he and they retaliated. You know what? There's a chat board right there. There's a keyboard. Name one person that he killed. Just name him. He's a straight killer. Throw that name in there. Let me see it.
Meanwhile, while he's doing that, Boss Bear said you guys should try to contact Nina Brandeschweier about her time at death row. You know what? I have been in contact with, we have talked, Frank and I talked with Nina a long time ago. And Nina is one of those people that, she's a delightful soul, great person. You know, I think that she still carries a lot of scars from her time with Death Row Records, and people don't like to talk about things that are emotionally bad for them. You know, I think she wrote about and talked about what she wanted to talk about, and it's fully within her right to say she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. But you know, we did actually reach out to her.
So Justin didn't give us an answer. He gave us an oh wow, and that's the typical argument. I'm not, you know, I'm not going down the route. I'm not upset about it. It's just, it's kind of frustrating that it's like I was saying earlier about the echo chamber. The people are so used to talking to other people who agree with them that they have no argument. Look, I am all for information. If you have some information on Orlando Anderson that I don't know, I would love to see it. My mind is open.
So let me go back to Galen King, Galen Kane, if you will. You know, I love Jameis. So Michael looked bad. He said, "What are you talking about, brother? He looked bad." Well, you know, the problem is like I said before, Michael came on to talk about a book. That was what he came on to talk about. He came on to plug his book. He wasn't prepared to get into a debate with anybody. He wasn't prepared to answer a bunch of questions about it. And in all honesty, I mean, you know, they wouldn't have tried that shit with me because I've been at it 10 years, okay? You know, Michael has done a ton of research. He's a stand-up dude. He's done a lot of good information, a lot of good research on this case. But his case and knowledge of the case goes back to a couple of years ago, okay? So there's only so much you're going to be able to soak in and retain as a author, as a writer. Michael knows a lot about this case, and I go back to Michael constantly for details that I can't remember for the life of me. And I can tell you that there's going to be a certain time of the day or a certain interview I'm going to do. You got good ones and you got bad ones that you can remember stuff. And sometimes if you've got 10,000 other things on your mind, you're not thinking about it, and somebody wants to come on and just make a bunch of ad hominem attacks. Of course he looks bad because he doesn't. I personally disagree. I don't think Michael looked bad at all. I do think that Michael was not prepared for the type of interview that he had. Nobody told him he was going to take live calls. Nobody told him there was going to be any kind of controversy on the show. And for most people that are just, you know, people that are, you know, smart people well-studied, you know, they don't always have this information right at hand. And so, you know, again, like I said, the element of surprise and a bully attack left him uncomfortable. And I think that it showed. And given the opportunity to do it again, Carlin probably wouldn't do it. But, you know, given the opportunity again, I know that for a fact he didn't go in and do interviews the same way after that. So just want to put that out there.
Matthew Strickland, once again, I appreciate you donating Super Chat. You know, thank you. But he's asking this question, and I would like to answer it. He says, "RJ, what became of the video you made with the car in the junkyard?" I pulled that video down. I pulled it down.
So we want to talk about that one again. Okay, and then actually I'm getting ready to go away for the holidays. So to all the thieves that want to come and break into my house, I guess I just kind of gave that away, didn't I? No, we're going to go away for a little bit tonight. Go out and have some nice dinner. So check this out. The Cadillac video, the white Cadillac video, we finally just pulled it down because it seems to be the Achilles heel of the case. And this, by the way, this is the reason that I come on so hard against Tanique, and I come on against people that take facts and on one breath they say Tupac was killed, and on the other breath they say Tupac is alive. You know, you got guys like that put that shit out there, and, you know, their convoluted message really messes things up. One thing we don't want to do is we don't want to convolute the message. The white car video, and we talked about this last week, the white car video was a video that really addressed the issue of what the witnesses saw or what the witnesses claimed to see. Yes. Did we have a lead that there was a car that matched a certain description of Baker? Sure we did. We went out and we followed the lead. Was it the car? We don't know. We didn't say it was. Again, this is back to, you know, Machiavelli Mecca running around saying that we said Suge Knight killed him in part one. Well, guess what? We didn't. And number two, in the white car video, we didn't say this was the car that killed Tupac Shakur, and we're going to go find it, and we're going to go bring it in. We asked a question, was it? And the only reason we brought that up and said, was it? I mean, I could have taken a car over at Cal Worthington Ford and pulled it over here, a white car, and said, is this the car that killed Tupac Shakur? And somebody would accuse me of saying it was. No, I asked the question. And the only reason we put this video out was because every witness, when they're interviews, believes that they know exactly what happened and they saw exactly what they saw, and they put it out there. So why is it that we have 7 or 8 different eyewitnesses that all said they saw different things, including the girls in the car said they saw a Lincoln? So there are people that said they saw a white Lincoln. You know, the cops pulled over a white Nissan. There's all of this conjecture about what the car looked like, and the entire point of the video was that, okay, you want to say it was a white car and you're not sure if it's a Cadillac or not. I mean, name me one person that said with absolute certainty it was the Cadillac. When you look at the witness statements from the Vegas police, they all say, yeah, we think it was a Cadillac. Was it a 2-door, 4-door? Don't know. Okay, those are eyewitnesses. Don't know. Frank Alexander saw an arm. Don't know. Gaddafi saw the face of the driver and gave a very good description of the face of the driver. He believed it was a Cadillac. He said he saw a Cadillac. But there were other eyewitnesses that were there at the time that definitely did not say that same thing. So all we did in the video, if you actually watch the video, you go back and you say, oh, look it, you can see that a white car at nighttime, a white Cadillac might look like an older model white Lincoln. We don't know, and it appears that the witnesses don't know. So how in the world can you keep trying to check out a white Cadillac when there's a 1 in 10 chance it may not have been a Cadillac at all? Tell me people who can prove that it was. Nobody. Nobody can prove it was.
And I think a lot of people miss the point that RJ, Russell Poole, Frank Alexander, for all these years have been actively investigating. I pushed RJ to put that video out because I wanted people to see that he was being proactive. Just like other people have said, no matter how small the lead, these guys are out there searching for it. And I wanted people to see that. But of course it was spun in a way that wasn't flattering to us. So instead of answer this question a million times, we just took it down. This has always been a thinking man's case.
Yeah, critical thinking. And Galen King saying, I need to hear you debate Greg and see who holds up. The problem is, again, a debate is 2 people standing up with a moderator where they have an opening presentation, they have to say what they have to say, they're given a chance to rebut, then there's another rebuttal, and there's a closing comment, and that's the extent of what a debate is. A debate isn't 2 guys fucking arguing with each other on the phone, one saying nah-uh, and the other one saying uh-huh, and throwing ad hominem attacks and attacking a person personally. It's not that at all. So if there is an opportunity where that might actually be formally put together, I wouldn't necessarily say no to that, because I got my shit together. I've been doing this 10 years. I've been looking at this case longer than Greg Kading has. So if you want to just look at time on the job in terms of like who you would trust to fly your plane, the guy has been doing it for 6 years, or the guy has been doing it for 10 years. I've been on this case even before Assassination came out, and Greg Kading came to my movie to see what I had to say, not the other way around. I didn't ask Greg Kading about what was happening or that I needed to talk to him because he was a fucking oracle of information. Check that. Who came to whose movie? Greg Kading and Darren Dupree came to our movie to see what we were up to and wanted to talk to Frank Alexander about what was in our movie. That's called learning. That's called investigating. That ain't called having your shit together. So yeah, again, under the right circumstances, just like a polygraph test, under the right circumstances, I'd have no problem putting my information out there. In fact, I put my information out in 3 different movies. I got enough to fill up 3 different movies. What's Murder Rap done? Is there going to be a Murder Rap 2? They say they got it right the first time. Is that the part with or without Reggie Wright in it?
And just for a little context, just to show you guys, there he is. There he is. If you want to see it, there's Greg Kading in 2007 arguing with Kevin Hackey, and Kevin Hackey owns this guy. I did want to address Mr. John Bostala, if you're still here. He asked, what would the motive be, assuming it was Reggie Wright? Money to be earned after the death of Tupac, or to protect Snoop and his interest? Which I think is a good question. Do you want to tackle that, RJ? You want me to run with it?
What was the question again? And then I got to get going here.
Okay.
We got to wrap it up.
What could be the motive, assuming it was Reggie Wright Jr.? Money to be earned after the death of Tupac? Little Half Dead to protect Snoop and his interests? He's just curious to what the most solid motive may be.
Well, I mean, I think we covered that pretty heavily in the especially in Battle for Compton. We covered that pretty heavily. I think it's money. I mean, you've got Death Row was worth $500 million at that time, and there was money. There was a ton of money to be had, but more importantly, there was a ton of money to be had in the drug dealing, and there was a ton of money that was being made with drugs flying around. You look at the interviews with Freeway Ricky Ross. He talks about just millions of dollars being thrown around like it's nothing, and hundreds and hundreds of pounds of drugs moving back and forth. Money was it. Now, every different person has a different motive when it comes to money. Like, so for example, Reggie Wright said that he could run a record label better than Suge Knight. Well, he tried. Okay, he tried True Dat Records. He tried to run that record label, and he got himself involved with a crook, and the crook went to jail. And so that kind of fizzled, and he didn't get a chance to do that, but he always said he could do it better than Suge. Well, then he's got his motive. He's got his reason right there. You have other people, you say, I think Sharitha was quoted as saying, well, don't say I killed Tupac. You want to say I killed Suge, that's one thing, but don't say I killed Tupac. Well, we don't. We don't say Sharitha killed Tupac. I mean, that would be too easy. But there's a difference between somebody saying, because again, like we said, Tupac was killed as collateral damage. So when Sharitha wants to come out and say that, we never said that. We never said that at all. Now, does she have means, motive, and opportunity to go after Suge? Sure. The first person they look at in an investigation is the spouse. So, why would that be such an unusual theory or an unusual statement to make? Okay. So, the motive, I believe, is just money. At the end of the day, it's all about the greenbacks, all about the money. Box Greg for charity. Listen, I'm so freaking fat and out of shape. I think I'd last all like 30 seconds. He wouldn't have to hit me. I would just fall over. I'd just fall over and just pass out from that. So,
I'll wrestle him in the parking lot in our underwear for free.
Do a thumb war, maybe something like that. So let's see, and then finally, let's see here.
Thank you for subscribing, Dave. I know RJ's
gonna
go.
Hey, JM just asked real quick, and did Freeway Ricky know the patents? Actually, it's very interesting because that's what was said that our sources say that they owed money to Freeway Rick, and that's why they wanted to make a deal with Fox and wanted to do an interview trying to out that information about the killing of Tupac. So So that was that. So, and also to stand by, I may have something dropping this week that would be substantial in terms of another piece of evidence and a piece of information. I'm very excited about. We're getting it actually validated right now with the people that would have been involved with it to actually substantiate it. And I've never put it out. I've had it for years. I actually thought the piece of information wasn't good. I thought it wasn't a good piece of information. I've now learned from the people involved with it that piece of information that I thought was actually, they asked me about it and if I knew anything about it. And so I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that and tell you that I am excited about new things. There's always something new cooking, always something new to turn over. And you wake up in the morning just to see what'll happen next, right? Because when we woke up the other morning, who knew that Reggie Wright had bank accounts in Tennessee? Who knew?
Thank you, RJ.
Hey, bud, you guys take care. Enjoy your weekend. Have a fantastic day. By the way, did you roll that other clip?
Not yet.
Did you roll the bonus clip?
I'm gonna.
Hey, guys, we got something really cool for you coming up right now. Enjoy. Have a great holiday weekend. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke the glass and drive. Don't do anything like that. Enjoy, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, RJ. You have a blessed holiday.
See you, bud. You too, bud. Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, I'm still here. I'm gonna take a couple questions and then I'm gonna run the clip. Okay. So there was a question. Hold on, let me get a camera on me. Just give me 1 second. Hopefully you guys can see me now. I'm gonna run a clip here in just a second, but I wanted to answer the $2 million cremation question that's been asked. I talked to an associate that's working closely with Tommy D, and we were going over ideas for the book. Stories to include, not to include. I only play a very, very small role in this book. You know, I'm helping them with just certain key dates. One of the stories was, Vlad was brought up that he's going to interview the guy who cremated Tupac. It was then told to me, we know that guy. He actually lives on an island. I know that sounds crazy, but he bought a small private island, I believe outside of Nassau, you know, which is not uncommon, but he personally told Tommy that he was paid $2 million. Now, the rumor has always been $3 million because Suge kind of exaggerates a little bit, but that's what that's what Tommy's been told, and Tommy believes this guy, they have a good relationship. He should be on Vlad. Vlad should be interviewing him, so that should answer your question. There's a couple different angles that could go. To be honest with you, you know, I've heard that Afeni wanted to cremate Tupac really quick so Billy Garland couldn't get a DNA test and sue her for Tupac's money. It could be something as simple as that. It could be Suge just throwing money around. It could be a lot of things. But I did want to take time to answer that question. Alright. Tommy D is the homie. Harry O has been disgruntled with Suge for quite some time. I'm sure he's rejoicing, but I haven't heard directly from Harry O yet, or Miss Lydia Harris, but I do have her contact information. Do I think Reggie will talk about Pac? I think that in my opinion, what's going on right now, Suge Knight has already came out and said that Reggie Wright and Sharifa Knight set him up to his attorney, Thaddeus Culpepper. That happened. Thaddeus came out publicly and denied it, but he was breaking client-attorney privilege when he came out and told that to Russell Poole. He had to deny it. If Suge Knight has already said that, then there's going to be a rush between either Reggie or Suge to get whatever information on the other person to get a better deal. If Suge could walk out of prison tomorrow by throwing Reggie under the bus, I believe absolutely they will. So the question, will Reggie talk about Tupac? It just all depends on what kind of pressure he's feeling and what his lawyers are telling him at this moment. Federal courts have about a 90% conviction rate. Keep that in mind. That 90% of those federal cases lead in convictions, and I'm sure his lawyers are telling him that. Did Fatal's gun kill Pac? It's very probable. I can't get into those details. You heard what RJ Bond said about leads. He does have something big coming for you guys. I can't say it. It's just not my place. I would love to tell you, but you guys will know sooner than later. So, I have this clip that I can play. I've actually got two of them, but I've got some Frank footage I can play, and I've got another clip I can play. Do you guys want to see the clip and I end this live stream, or do you want a couple more questions? Just let me know. Tease it. I don't think Frank committed suicide either, but that is my opinion. Okay, well, I guess what I'll do is, you know what, he might not have had dealings with grapes back in those days, but I tell you what, it's awful odd that Suge Knight, being a blood or surrounding himself with bloods, had a head of security that, come to find out years later, is affiliated with Crips. I don't think that it was a new affiliation, but I'm speculating. So if he had Crip affiliation back then, that would be pretty telling. Clip, clip, clip. Okay, alright, I'm playing the clips. Look, I'm playing them. I want to personally thank every single one of you. The audience retention has been really well. Only a few of you left. Everybody's been great. You guys have shown RJ a lot of love, and I appreciate it personally. I don't think he gets enough credit. The guy really just wants to see it solved because he's lost three friends now. Frank Alexander was his close friend. Russell Poole was his close friend. He's watching his friends die, and Reggie Wright coming on and saying, God don't like ugly. You know, Reggie, RJ Bond has been slandered and drugged through the mud, and I appreciate you guys showing him the love that you guys did. You know, that means a shit ton to me, and you guys are family. Not subs. Check out 313's. Check out his YouTube. Listen to his podcast. We're gonna do something soon where I'm gonna get him on here and we're gonna talk. We're gonna leave that internet beef to little clowns like Lay Legend and those type of dudes. We're not gonna talk about that. We're better than that. So without any further ado, guys, I'm gonna play the clip. I'm gonna give you the lamer clip first. I'm gonna make you wait for the Frank footage, but here it is. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you like this live stream. I'm going to probably put out Wednesday the Greg Kading debate with me and him. It's ugly. It's nasty. I only got about an hour of it. They have the rest. But fuck it. If they want to bury it, I'll put it out. So, here's the clips. I got to exit this out and we'll do this thing. Thank you for all the love you've shown me as well. I believe it's only Reggie Jr. that's out on bail. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of this thing. And I'm going to play the clips. Give me 1 second.
Never done. He didn't play that.
Kind of ratings back in 97, 98.
Yeah.
First one's Who's That Rapper? Some of you have seen it on my previous live stream. Next is Frank.
First, and then we're gonna get into the hype shit, alright? Yeah, what's up, Too Short? Alright. Can't flow. Got to go. With what? Your time. Can anybody tell us those MC's name? Who's those rappers? Who? Yeah, I think they know who it is. They just ain't caught on to the game yet. You know what I'm saying? Alright, let me do another one. Hickory dickory dock. It was 12 o'clock, Cinderella ain't home. Must be giving up the cock, I don't doubt it. Cause I'ma tell you loud and clear, get off my dick, nigga, and tell your bitch to come in. Can anybody tell us that MC's name? Who's that rapper? Yeah, they're getting a little better with it. Yo, let's rock another one, man. Ludicrous rhythm and rhyme, anticipated like a bottle of Heinz. Catch up, cause you fell behind. Hey, yo, Ben, let's take them under. Can anybody tell us those MC's names? Who's those rappers? You know it. Alright, they with it. Yo, do another one. Yo, y'all gonna love this shit. Can anybody tell us that MC's name? Who's that rapper? Very good, very good.
Alright, guys. Here's the Frank clip.
Yo,
hold on.
Let's do the Gap Band shit. Never thought you'd come to this. Used to have love for him, but now they turn it on me. What we finna do right here?
Yeah, that's so yeah.
Niggas turn it on me, man. Yo, you ready? Let's do the Gap Band shit. Never thought you'd come to this. Used to have love for him, but now they turn it on me. we finna do right here.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Niggas turn it on me, man. Everybody tripping, man. I don't got no friends and shit. Everybody talking about niggas news and shit. This shit in the bag, man. Overall. That's alright, cuz as long as they got mics and shit, I'm gonna do it. Can I drink with you? Somebody stole my drink. Ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
No.
No? See, y'all do it.
We're just taking 2 tracks again, right?
Come on, why you hiding, man? Come on, man.
I think we're gonna lay live work on drums, bass,
and that shit to the side, man.
Okay.
Come on, man. See, you guys just got done.
We didn't program it yet.
Keep doing what Tina Turner was doing. You
gonna do that with live?
They had love for him, but now they turning on me. Why me? Oh no. Never thought they had love for him, but now they turning on me. Why me?
What part of the game did I not get? Must have missed it, get twisted, out on the game sit, and niggas playing shit I could have seen through. Started between me and you, but now everybody knowing too. Cooler than cools, Newports and nowadays.
Honey, will this just cut right off and turn black? It just did.
It did turn it off.
Yo, you ready? Let's do the Gap Band shit. Never thought it'd come to this. Used to have love for him, but now they turning on me. What we finna do right here?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Niggas turn it on me, man. Everybody tripping, man. I don't got no friends and shit. Everybody talking about niggas news and shit. This shit in the bag, man. Overall. That's alright, cuz as long as they got mics and shit, I'm gonna do it. Can I drink with you? Somebody stole my drink. Ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready?
No.
No? See, y'all do it.
We're just taking 2 tracks again, right?
Come on, why you hiding, man? Come on, man.
I think we're gonna lay live work on drums, bass, and
that shit to the side, man.
Okay.
Come on, man. See, you guys just got done.
We didn't program it yet.
Keep doing what Tina Turner was doing.
You gonna do that with live?
They had love for him, but now they turning on me. Why me? Oh no. Never thought they had love for him, but now they turning on me. Why me?
What part of the game did I not get? Must have missed it, get twisted, out on the game sit, and niggas playing shit I could have seen through. Started between me and you, but now everybody knowing too. Cooler than cools, Newports and nowadays.
Honey, will this just cut right off and turn black? It just did.
It did turn it off.